It might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash those. The smash.
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, "I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source." Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work. You just can't say it.
It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world, as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 3 minutes past 6. It is Monday, the 22nd of September. Whoa, that one came around pretty quick, didn't it? It didn't seem like a couple of minutes ago, but it was actually Friday. I had a big weekend up in Manchester. I'll tell you all about that. Home of Andy Burnham, who makes the papers today as the next big saviour of the Labour government, after Keir Starmer, in what can only be described as a sort of lashing out of popularism and the hopes of saving his own skin, has decided to recognise Palestine as a country. And it's all over the front pages this morning. Hamas claims victory after Starmer hands out a prize for terrorism, is what it says on the front of the Daily Mail. Netanyahu and the hostages family accuse the Prime Minister of betrayal over Palestine. Daily Telegraph, Hamas declares victory after Starmer recognises Palestine. The Times, Palestine recognition a great prize for Hamas, they say. Prime Minister condemned by Israel and the hostage families. And even The Guardian, Starmer declares UK recognition of Palestine as an independent state. The Prime Minister says the decision shows commitment to peace and a two-state solution. I disagree. I think all it shows is Keir Starmer's commitment to keep himself in power for as long as he possibly can, fighting off all the slings and arrows of the people in his party who would like to see an independent Palestinian state and who would like to see Israel wiped off the face of the map. I think it's possibly one of the most disgraceful and disgusting moves of any Prime Minister that has ever been done in the name of Great Britain. And I'm quite frankly ashamed to have to tell you about it this morning. But we'll be talking to Tom Slater, who's here from Spikes. Tom, very good morning to you. We'll be bringing out the other angle of it in the Express. It says the West is warned that ISIS could be reborn inside 24 hours, and that's because of the prison camps in Syria. We've talked about those before, who will no doubt be encouraged by what's happened in terms of the British government's recognition of a Palestinian state. Nobody can apparently say who's in charge of the Palestinian state. It would appear to be a group which has been prescribed as a terrorist organisation known as Hamas. The front page of the I newspaper, Israel lashes out at UK for recognise a Palestinian state. Starmer's historic declaration on Palestinian statehood provokes a furious response from the Israeli government and angers the families of hostages killed and still being held, let's face it, in tunnels underneath Gaza. by Hamas, the terrorist organisation that murdered and butchered and raped and burned and killed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people on October the 7th, 2023. I don't know where to begin with this story. It really is quite extraordinary. Lots of other stories to talk about as well. Front page of The Sun have got a Special Forces exclusive. Apparently an elite soldier was shot 7 times in a live ammo mix-up. The only question I would have there is, if you shoot somebody once by accident with some live ammo, why would you shoot them 7 times? I mean, I know I'm not a military man, but it seems a bit difficult, doesn't it? Seems a bit over the top. 0344 499 1000. Nigel Farage on the front page of the Daily Telegraph as well. This is a big story. He says he kick out hundreds of thousands of people who have no right to be here, particularly those who have been given indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. He's going to pledge to kick them all out as a reversal of Britain's relaxed border rules. There's lots of other stories around that as well. Labour in all sorts of trouble in all sorts of different ways, and we'll get to all of that. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. And a very good morning, a very good Monday morning. It's a bit dark, it's a bit damp, but it's probably going to be raining a bit later. When I woke up this morning, Tom, very good morning, it said 8 degrees, and I went, crikey, that's come about a bit fast, isn't it? It was only like 24 on Friday.
No, absolutely. It feels like summer is well and truly over.
I know. You know, it's absolutely, there's so many stories to tell you about the weekend, including having gone to Manchester and finding out about Andy Burnham. There was a bus strike. Right, everybody talks about how great Andy Burnham is, what a great mayor he must be. People were giving Sadiq Khan a hard time last week because of the week before because of a tube strike, which has sort of paralysed the city. Manchester was literally like solid. You couldn't move anywhere. You know, if you got a cab somewhere, you had to get out and walk because it was so bad. The traffic from outside of the city into the city was bad. You know, the ring road was bad. Everything was a complete mess because there's a 3-day bus strike going on. You never hear about these things.
No, you really don't, and it's especially...
You hear about Andy Burnham being like the saviour of the North and how great he is. Why isn't he in charge of the buses in the city?
Exactly, he solved absolutely everything. But it's a recurring pattern, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cities run by centre-left politicians across the West now, just a complete mess. But Burnham, you would think that people would be paying a bit more close attention because of the fact that he is so obviously on manoeuvres, given how bad things are for Keir Starmer. But again, people's records don't really... It's all about vibes these days, isn't
it? Well, because unfortunately, most of the media, because they're centred in London, don't ever go to places like Manchester. They don't really know what it's like. They don't actually talk to people there. They don't actually understand. Well, they just go, oh, yeah, he's in charge of that city. Manchester's a real success story. Oh, really? Is it? Says who? You know, and then they say these things and it kind of becomes a myth that, you know, oh, Andy Burnham's a really, really good mayor. And I didn't speak to anybody who thought he was a really good mayor, you know?
And all he's done is a brilliant kind of PR job in terms of rescuing his reputation, or making him seem relevant again, given the fact that he lost that leadership bid to Jeremy Corbyn, and also kind of refashioning himself as that sort of king over the water.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, surely you should just disappear from politics for the rest of your life if you lose to Jeremy Corbyn. I mean, Jeremy Corbyn didn't beat anybody. You know what I mean?
You think all those people are back. Yvette Cooper lost to him, of course. You know, it's one of those things where the kind of older Brownites and Blairites, as very much as Andy Burnham belongs to, have tried to reinvent themselves.
They have.
And I just don't understand why anyone buys it. I mean, there's nothing else just really insubstantial. What does he actually stand for? What does he want to do? No one really knows.
Exactly.
Is he kind of to the left of Keir Starmer?
You don't have any suggestion of what his policies would be, for example. What does he think about the recognition of a Palestinian state? We haven't heard his view. He's doing that thing that Starmer did before he won the election, which is to say nothing, and basically to make no commitments at all about anything, and just talk about renewal, and talk about, you know, we're not them. We're not going to be doing what they do. We're going to put country first. I didn't know what he meant when he said, well, we're going to put country first. We're going to put a terrorist-run country first.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Read the small print.
He didn't read the small print. Yeah, my own fault, I suppose. But people have really, really got upset about quite rightly, about this recognition of Palestine, because he's got together with that moron Carney from Canada. Yeah. You know, it's a complete waste of space. And the French. You know, 2 fantastically useless countries to get into bed with, to go, oh, let's all recognise the Palestinian state. There is no Palestinian state to recognise, is there?
No, exactly. What is...
I mean, where's the government of Palestine?
Absolutely. Who is going to be the government of this state? It's hopefully not going to be Hamas, but at the same time...
Well, they're the only people that have been elected, it seems to me.
Well, you've got the Palestinian Authority, of course, who, you know, are what, you know, 20 years...
Yeah, they don't have much authority, though.
No, exactly. And also, they haven't had an election for a very long time because they're terrified that Hamas or something like it would win.
Yeah, right.
They're seen as crooked, they're seen as corrupt by many of the people in the West Bank and Gaza. So it's, on the one hand, you could say it's just a kind of virtue signal, but it has tremendously disastrous consequences.
It does.
You've had Hamas openly coming out and saying that this is the fruits of October the 7th.
Yeah.
Do you really want to be the Prime Minister who gives a pat on the head and a reward to a jihadist terror organisation for mounting the most deadly attack on Jews since the Holocaust. That's effectively what he's done.
That's exactly what he's done, because he's basically encouraged anybody who wants to think about doing something similar. Well, if you do that, you will then have your country recognised by the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I mean, it's absolutely shameful. I can't quite believe it's happened.
No, and also the fact that we all know that this hasn't happened necessarily because Keir Starmer has thought geostrategically this is the most important thing, or morally this is the most important thing. It's because he's in a fight with internally against disgruntled, more soft left or left-wing MPs, and also when he's looking at his kind of electoral calculations, when he's looking at how close even some of his cabinet ministers ran to Gaza independent candidates at the last election. He's making it for entirely self-serving political reasons. So to make
which actually makes it even worse, doesn't it?
Exactly, for just to save your own skin. I mean, this is something that I think will really, when people look back on it, I hope at least, it will be seen as one of the really kind of worst parts of his legacy in a crowded field. I think
it's a very crowded field. Well, let's have a look at him announcing why he's recognising Palestine.
In the face of the growing horror in the Middle East, we are acting to keep alive the possibility of peace and a two-state solution. That means a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable Palestinian state. At the moment, we have neither. So today, to revive the hope of peace and a two-state solution, I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the state of Palestine.
Whoop-de-doo. I mean, what a complete and utter idiotic statement there. He's standing there with his hands, you know, as if that makes him look like some kind of statesman. The state of Palestine. Nobody wants a two-state solution, by the way, especially the Palestinians. They don't want Israel to exist. They don't want a two-state solution. Israel doesn't really want a two-state solution either. There isn't a two-state solution.
It's just one of those things where it's a platitude now that is trotted out, but you're absolutely right in terms of the facts on the ground. I mean, people treat Hamas as if it's a sort of national liberation cause. It's hell-bent on the destruction of Israel and, you know, Palestine becoming just the kind of Palestinian outpost of a caliphate. This is something
they chant from the river to the sea for a reason.
No, absolutely, and yet people just don't believe them or make excuses for them. And again, you have to look at the kind of chain of events here. Are we really suggesting that after something as horrific as that has taken place? Meanwhile, the hostages are still in Gaza. 50 of them, about 20 of them believed to be alive. And yet now you've got Keir Starmer going and make grand sweeping statements about how we need to recognise Palestine. The whole sequence of this is so horrendous, will have nothing but bad political consequences. It's also, by the way, more likely to encourage the very right-wing, far-right elements within the Israeli government to push for more settlements in the West Bank. So if your concern was people of Palestine...
I read a piece saying that that's likely to be advancing now. That's likely to be sort of sped up. But you've also got the problem where if you recognise Palestine as a state and you give Palestinian people the right to have an embassy in the UK, that also means they have a right to seek asylum in the UK. So what we'll have is a bunch of people coming here from Palestine who decide they want to live here, you know. So great, because we haven't got enough people doing that, have we?
No, exactly.
That's what we need, is some more people. And it's so arrogant of him to say that he wants to revive the hope of peace in the Middle East. You know, who do you think he is? Neville Chamberlain. You know, he's appeasing these people for killing and murdering and raping and ruining an entire, you know, a section of Israeli life. You know, that's what he's done. He says he wants to keep alive the possibilities of a two-state solution and insists the brutal terror organisation Hamas would play no role in any Palestinian government. Well, what's it got to do with him? You know, people voted for them. Why can't they have their own government, whether it's a terrorist-run one or not? But if they want to have a terrorist-run government, then we shouldn't be recognising it. It's straightforward, isn't it?
And also, at the same time, the fact that he even in that statement made a point of having to denounce Hamas, talk about how it will have no role in the future government, shows that I think they recognise that this stinks to high heaven, that it does look like rewarding them, that it doesn't...
Well, because it is rewarding them.
No, absolutely.
It doesn't just look like it, it actually is.
And they are saying that themselves openly now. So if you want to... That's the thing about this plan that's also worth noting. We're saying it's for like domestic political consumption to a large extent. It's going to please no one. Do you really think someone who was going to vote for the Greens or your party, if it still exists at the time, next election, whatever it is, who are furious with Keir Starmer over the question of Palestine, are going to be impressed by this? Almost certainly not. At the same time, it's quite clear that British Jews in particular are furious about this. The statements that you've seen come from Emily Damari's family in recent days, the British-Israeli hostage who was held for so long in Gaza. They are seeing this as, they'd likened it to essentially, awarding statehood to a bunch of Nazis, in effect, because of the fact that Hamas is a fascistic, anti-Semitic group, lest we forget. So who is this going to please was always the question.
Yeah.
We now know who it pleases, Hamas.
Yeah.
Are you really happy with that, Keir Starmer?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Dan Hodges, our favourite critic of Keir Starmer, who used to be a big fan of his until he started doing stuff with us. Now we know what Starmer stands for: appeasement, cowardice and deceit. Right? So that's a pretty straightforward statement. Also, they've got an interesting graphic inside the Mail in which they describe the three kind of main parts that are kind of up for grabs, if you like. Gaza, obviously, 20 miles away from the West Bank, currently run by a terrorist group, Hamas. The West Bank divided into three areas following the Oslo Peace Accords in the 1990s, with administrative and security control divided unevenly between Israeli and Palestinian authorities. And then East Jerusalem, regarded by Palestinians as their capital, which has been entirely governed by Israel since 1967. So exactly which part of that are they recognising, and exactly who is running any of it?
No, exactly. That's the thing. They
don't know.
There's no detail.
It's literally so idiotic, Starmer. He doesn't even understand the setup of what he's done.
And there's no kind of credible plan for what what Gaza's governance will look like after the war. That's something that is starting to be talked about.
They haven't had an election there since 2005.
Exactly.
And then Hamas got in and thought, we don't need any more elections. And that's the kind of organisation they're talking about. Let's have a look at David Lammy. He was on Trevor Phillips' show yesterday and asked who was in charge of Palestine.
You want to recognise an independent state, but you're telling that independent state who its leaders should be. I think we used to call that a colony.
No. One, let us not confuse the Palestinian people with Hamas.
No,
two, let us recognise...
The question is, who's in government? Are you saying that you will not recognise the Palestinian state if Hamas is part of government? Or are you saying it doesn't matter who's in government and you will recognise them come what may?
Trevor, your viewers know that we are some significant distance from two states.
What? What's he even talking about? So he doesn't answer the question. Who are you recognising?
No, absolutely. He's just got no
He doesn't
clue.
know. He's even more stupid than Starmer is.
He was the Foreign Secretary until 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
You would think that he was someone who was devoted to exploring this question. There has been this long-running plan to recognise the state of Palestine if certain conditions weren't met.
If it becomes a state, for a start. Maybe first become a state and then you can decide whether you want to recognise it.
That's the thing. That's what
it's not a state.
That's what makes this kind of the Palestine question so bizarre, is that all of the kind of usual kind of conventions of, at what point is statehood recognised, at what point do people be given kind of diplomatic routes and so on and so forth, have just been completely warped and bent in pursuit of often just Western.
It's like recognising the Independent People's Republic of Sunderland, because some bloke in a working men's club wants to have it as an independent nation.
And the fact that he can't even answer basic questions about what would this state look like, who would lead it, who are you excluding from it, on what basis can you exclude Hamas?
And how can you say who you want to recognise as who runs it? Because again, as Trevor Phillips said, that's called colonisation, isn't it?
So, but they can't even answer those basic questions, which tells you that this isn't really about Palestine. So often it's not about Palestine, it's about domestic political issues, or it's often on the more extreme ends of left-wing politics, it's about hatred of the Jewish state. So these things...
It's like something that would happen at a student union conference, isn't it? We recognise the state of Palestine, brothers and sisters, comrades, Yeah. It's pathetic. Exactly. It really is pathetic.
But when you're the government, it's obviously so much worse, isn't it? It's not just a virtue signal, it comes with consequences.
It's actually worse, Let's have a look at what Bridget Phillipson has to say about it. She probably had to be shown it on a map.
This is an historic moment. The UK Labour government has recognised the Palestinian state, the inalienable right of the Palestinian people. What we now need to see is an end to the war. The suffering that we see in Gaza is horrifying and morally reprehensible. It's why we need a surge in aid, why we need to see hostages released, and why we need an end to the war, a permanent ceasefire and a lasting peace.
Can you imagine watching that in headquarters of Hamas and falling about laughing? Who's this woman? Sorry, what's she calling for?
Stood by lay by someone. It's not entirely obvious.
She's wearing a sleeveless dress and calling for peace in the Middle East. What's going on with that?
No, exactly. That's the other thing, is that sort of delusions of grandeur on the part of politicians. If anything, I think this recognition of Palestine is going to make Britain even more irrelevant to the future of what happens in that part of the world. I mean, it's quite clearly that whilst Trump is willing to look the other way, to say we just disagree on this, it's going to make any kind of... The idea that we're kind of involved in this at all was always slightly questionable, but now we've made complete mugs of ourselves, and also infuriated, Israel.
Will also be taken, again, although it's
yeah.
already partially happened, it's taken Britain out of any kind of security conversation with Israel. You know, Israel's one of the most important, you know, security-conscious nations in that part of the world as an ally of the UK, because we're supposed to be on the same side. What are they going to tell us now? They're not going to tell us anything.
And also that goes across the Israeli political spectrum. This isn't just, you know, Benjamin Netanyahu and the lunatics in his cabinet who are upset by this. The families of the hostages have put out statements saying that they see this as rewarding terrorism, because it is. And obviously Israeli politics is very divided at the moment about what to do about the war, whether or not it should continue. But they are seemingly much more united over the question of, like, if you are recognising it now, what does that spell? What does that incentivise? What knock-on effects is that going to have, not just for Israel and their fight against Hamas, but also the fight against terrorism and Islamism more broadly? You know, you're basically saying that you can murder, assault people, take hostages, rape and so on, and it might actually work as a political gambit.
That's what they now believe. Hamas do believe that. I saw an interview with a Palestinian politician over the weekend who said, you know, which countries around the world were even considering recognising Palestine before October the 7th, 2023? There weren't any. And now look where we are. And so they see it as a massive move forward for the, you know, the existence of a Palestinian state. It's extraordinary. It really is extraordinary. He's played straight into their lap like an idiot. 21 minutes past 6. This, of course, is the home of common sense. Sue from Essex says, Mike, now Starmer has recognised Palestine. Does this mean a leader from there will be coming over to be hugged by Starmer outside number 10 Downing Street? Looking forward to a great show. You're probably right. That'll be the next thing we see. He'll invite somebody in from Palestine, won't he? And there'll be the old, you know, the prolific hugging outside Downing Street, the man hugs. That's what he likes to do. Charles from Thailand says, I no longer see the Labour Party as a political party. Under Starmer, they have morphed into a terrorist sympathisers organisation. They must go. Well, they've always been quite sympathetic to some terrorist groups, some parts of the Labour Party, you'd have to say. I'm thinking, of course, of Jeremy Corbyn and his friends in Hamas, his friends in Hezbollah, him and John McDonnell's friends in the IRA, and, you know, Jerry Adams and all that, when they used to invite them into Parliament, even though they wouldn't go to Parliament when they were actually employed to do so. You know, absolutely shocking stuff. Anyway, we've got lots of other stories to talk about. We're not going to get too bogged down in Keir Starmer's schoolboy politics in the Middle East. It's 22 minutes past 6. We'll tell you about Nigel Farage and immigration coming next.
Since the October 7th massacre, because that was a popular decision on the Palestinian street. And the reason that that barbaric violence was so popular among Palestinians is because they think the world is rewarding them for it. They see countries lining up to recognize a Palestinian state, not as a reward for peace, but as a reward for the October 7th massacre, and they get the message that terrorism works. This step that the UK is about to take will only make Hamas more popular.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 25 minutes past 6. I'm Mike Graham. This one from Rachel, who says, "Morning, Mike. I simply can't express my anger with our Prime Minister over his latest manoeuvre. What he's done is an effort to remain in post. He is absolutely despicable." And Darryl in Blackburn says, "Morning, Mike. Starmer denies recognising Palestine to appease his voter base. So to show consistency, is he going to announce at next week's conference he's going to recognise Narnia and Mordor, as they also don't exist?" I mean, you know, it's not a bad point, Darryl. Thank you very much indeed. Let's get a voice note from Lee.
Morning, Mike. Great. Lee from Manchester. Great show as usual. All I'm going to say is Andy Burnham has been one of the worst mayors that we've had in Manchester for a long time. The bus strikes are the cause of the traffic jam that occurs in Manchester. It's a daily occurrence on the ring roads, inside the centre, everything. It takes 30 to 40 minutes just to get out of the centre. It's absolutely horrendous, and trouble that with all the crime that's going on, especially around Piccadilly Gardens. Honestly, one of the worst mayors we've ever had. All right, bye now.
Yeah, well, he's certainly following in the footsteps of Sadiq Khan if he's managed to screw up the traffic to that extent. But I was in Manchester not that long ago, a few months back anyway. It didn't seem to be as bad traffic-wise as it is now. And, of course, just before I got there last week, there was a 15-year-old boy stabbed to death in Moss Side. You know, so, again, following kind of in the footsteps of Sadiq Khan, you know, Manchester is being run into the ground by yet another, you know, Labour genius, it would seem to me.
No, absolutely. And also that people seem to ignore their actual record, provided that they have the right vibes, provided that they're seen as an interesting character, provided that they kind of project some sense of leadership or give certain people in SW1 a warm feeling. It just feels so... When people talk about the future of the Labour Party, which is quite an open question in terms of what its future might be, there's just such a lack of seriousness in terms of, like, what are the politics here? What sort of policy difference would you see? How would he actually really try to turn the page on the Keir Starmer era if he was given the opportunity?
If he was going to,
I don't think he knows, let alone anyone who's writing about him.
Well, what is the Keir Starmer era anyway? I mean, people like David Lammy, as you say, just you know, a couple of days ago, he was the Foreign Secretary, and he doesn't appear to know much about Palestine. You know, and you can look around at the cabinet, and they're just all hopeless. There's not one of them that you would pick out of a crowd and go, no, that's a possible leader, that's a you know, future leader. They're all just completely useless. Massive event yesterday, of course, in Arizona, the memorial service to Charlie Kirk, which was in a football stadium, which I'm told had more security than even the Super Bowl, because Donald Trump showed up, Elon Musk was there as well. Let's have a look at Erica Kirk, his widow, on forgiving his killer.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Wow. And he, I think, has now just been charged with murder, the 22-year-old assassin. Let's see what Donald Trump had to say.
He was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great, great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent. And I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. Charlie's angry. Looking down, he's angry at me now.
Nobody else could get away with that, could they?
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite an extraordinary thing to say when after listening to his widow saying, "I forgive my, husband's killers," and he's like, "I don't." Incredible.
No, they're playing it for laughs. Incredibly emotionally charged memorial service. But
incredible.
That is Donald Trump, isn't it?
That is Donald Trump, and that is exactly what you mean. But they were all there. J.D. Vance was there as well. But as I say, we'll learn more, I suppose, about whether or not they're going to seek the death penalty for this guy, because they can do that in Utah. And apparently they still have a firing squad as a method of the death penalty, which apparently, I don't know what the absolute situation is, but I think if you are found guilty, you can choose the method of your death.
Oh, really?
Which is even more kind of curious, in a way. It's slightly medieval, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it'd be interesting to see as more comes out as well, because it's been, from the charges so far, there's been pretty clear indication of a motive in terms of it being politically motivated, and hating Charlie Kirk for what he said, and therefore deciding to mow him down on that basis. But there'll be so much more that will come out, certainly, about, and also how it was allowed to happen is a big question. There were so few police officers and security there, given the scale of the event.
I mean, a lot of people said to me that was the way Charlie Kirk wanted it. We're just watching Elon Musk there with Donald Trump. They've obviously made up again whatever it was that their difficulties were. But yeah, I mean, apparently one of his main kind of points of everything was that he wanted to go out and meet the people. He didn't want there to be massive amounts of security. He wanted to be able to talk to people relatively close to him, face to face. And if you're going to be shot from 169 yards away, I mean, there are some things you can do to stop that, but probably not everything. No,
exactly. Without it becoming just so securitised that it would sort of defeat the purpose. But there was something, looking at those videos from last night and addressing this football stadium from behind the bulletproof glass. Obviously, that was always going to be there if Trump or any prominent politician was there. But there was something about it which just hammered home what a horrific thing it was that he was just killed for his views. And also, there's going to be this feeling, certainly on the right of American politics, that the temperature is so raised that it is a lot more dangerous than it was 2 weeks ago to go out and engage with people openly. So, it's one of those things where it was a tremendous, very religious, as we've seen, sort of moment for people to come together last night. But the dark cloud that is still cast over American politics by this assassination is still pretty considerable. Yeah, I think so. Absolutely right. Let's have a quick look at Nigel Farage on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. I'll kick out hundreds of thousands, he says, of legal migrants in an unprecedented reversal of Britain's relaxed border rules. He says that he will unveil plans to force all migrants with permanent residency to reapply for visas under stricter criteria, including a higher salary requirement and a better standard of English. This will be music to the ears of an awful lot of people who were thinking about voting reform, but were not sure that they were going to be right-wing enough for them, I guess. So he's sort of moving it to the right slightly. No, absolutely. And it's something that it seems like both the Tories and Reform were having to look at this question of indefinite leave to remain, particularly in the context of the so-called Boris wave, the unprecedented numbers of legal migrants coming into the country, because of the fact that over quite short order they would potentially be able to apply for and receive indefinite leave to remain. And there's also been this kind of question hanging over it as to where does ILR and citizenship begin, and what rights and responsibilities should be involved in that. And this is Reform's offer in that area. So it'll be interesting to see how it lands, because obviously so much of the discussion has been about illegal migration in recent months. But it's another example, I think, of them trying to kind of build out a clear offer in this area and to really set out the detail, which hasn't always been forthcoming previously. So more of them trying to
and the Boris wave is very significant, because the numbers, according to the Peace and Telegraph here, say there's 3.8 million people who moved to the UK after Brexit under more relaxed rules introduced, of course, by Boris Johnson, which is one of the reasons why an awful lot of Reform voters don't ever want to see Boris Johnson ever again in any kind of position of power, because he was the one that started all that, with all the people coming here on student visas, on work visas, most of whom have stayed over them, and many of them have now sought and probably got political asylum.
Oh, no, absolutely. And that was a really interesting poll in, I think it was a Mail on Sunday yesterday, Lord Ashcroft, looking at would Reform benefit from any kind of alliance with the Tories? It's really not clear that they would. Even though you would think, OK, they've got this percentage of the vote, they've got this percentage of vote, stick it on top of each other. There is a pretty substantial part of the Reform coalition in terms of the voter base there who are really furious with the Tories. It's not just that they let us down, it's that there's a really clear sense of betrayal there. So that's one thing that they'll have to negotiate, particularly as they probably will continue to seek defections from the Tory party.
Sure.
You had the Danny Kruger one last week. But there is this kind of... People want to get Keir Starmer out of government, certainly, but there's also that continuing sense of betrayal with the Tory party, given all that happened in the time that they're in power.
And there's also going to be a lot more kind of focus as well from Farage and from Reform on the benefit system that these people are able to kind of access as a result of being, considered legal and being given leave to remain. Because previously, up until relatively recently, we were always told, weren't we, by governments, we don't really pay benefits to migrants. Well, it turns out there's millions and millions of pounds going out every single year to people who have come here, either legally or illegally, who are getting benefits.
No, and it's one thing that, as you say, has always been kind of obscured in this discussion. There was just sort of misleading claims trotted out about the fact that, fiscally this isn't a problem. It quite clearly is, and a lot of those kind of more kind of economic arguments in favour of mass migration have started to really be called into question now, even amongst some quite mainstream figures. So that's, you're just seeing how the debate is shifting in a way that's been building for many years, obviously, but almost at breakneck speed now. You see the Overton window moving on this.
Totally. The Mail have got a piece on page 4 as well about this hotel in Ealing, Hampton by Hilton, which is one of those hotels which has been used for housing migrants now for quite some time. This is where the convicted terrorist and Hyde Park rapist was staying, the Egyptian guy Abdul Rahman Adnan Abu Layla, who's just been jailed for quite a few years for attacking a woman in November 2024. They're basically saying that this 4-star Hilton hotel is now complete kind of no-go area for an awful lot of people, and it says that several people living in the building have tried to secure cash-in-hand jobs at a nearby car wash despite being banned from working. One small boat migrant from Afghanistan told the Daily Mail, "It's good here, I have a nice hotel room." That's all right then, isn't it?
No, exactly.
Marvellous.
It's one of those things where I think we'll always wonder how we ever managed to get to this mess in the first place.
Everyone knows as well in their area of a hotel just like that.
Yeah.
Maybe not always as nice as that, but that that's been just taken over.
No, precisely, and all of the absurdities that produces. People see, homeless veterans on the street, and they see this taking place. It's really connecting with people, the hotels issue, because of the sense of not just this being a sign that illegal migration has gotten out of control, and also that, again, dealing with that is treated more seriously than the public safety, given a non-negligible amount of these people, of course, going to potentially commit crime. But also the sense of injustice about it. It just seems, particularly at a time when economically things are still pretty difficult, when there's all kinds of problems in society, that again, you've got people being put up in hotels who arrived 5 minutes ago. That's one of the reasons it's really cut through.
I think that's why people, and we're going to play a voice note for you in a minute about Palestine, people just shake their heads and they go, why is Starmer, wasting his time going on about recognising it's a place that doesn't exist when he's got this trouble on his doorstep? We've got people wandering the streets, who, as far as we know, could be rapists, could be killers, could be terrorists. One guy actually was 2 out of the 3, and he's now in prison. And that's what he needs to fix. He needs to worry about his international reputation. Pete has something to say on recognising Palestine.
How on earth is Keir Starmer able to just announce this on his own without asking the British people, or without asking Parliament, or without it going to the House of Lords, or even whatever methods or things it has to go through? How is he able to just announce off his own back that he's recognising Palestine? He must be off his absolute rocker.
Yeah, I think that's how most people will see him. He looks so stiff there as well, delivering that ridiculous message. David in Essex, I see what you did there, goes, Mike, I would like to formally state that Essex is a separate state to the rest of the UK, especially London. We will be pursuing equal status and be looking for reparations from the government for many years of decline. There you go. I think it should be the other way round, actually. I think we need the reparations from Essex because a lot of people have moved there out of London and left us with the dregs of society who are all on benefits. That's the problem. 6:38.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:40. I'm Mike Graham with you, of course, all the way through until 10 o'clock. It is Monday, the 22nd of September. Let's have a voice note from Pete.
Morning, Mike and Tom. Nick from Loughborough. Never in my memory has a Prime Minister stooped so low as Starmer has, and he's betrayed the British people purely in a craven attempt to appease the people in his party, the people who are going to vote for pro-Palestinian MPs and MPs who have largely Muslim constituencies. It's appalling, it's disgraceful, it's traitorous, and I, like you, Mike, am today ashamed to be British. Have a good day, guys.
Nick, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, shocking, absolutely shocking situation. Martin in Oxford says, Starmer yet again dragging the UK through the mire. He's ruling us by division. He's a very, very dangerous person. Hamas are openly celebrating his allegiance to their terror group. This is shameful, and the man needs to go ASAP. I mean, a lot of people saying the same thing this morning, Tom. They're not happy about this decision at all, because it's quite, it's an important milestone, I suppose you might call it, in British foreign policy, and yet he's done it without any kind of conversation in Parliament, as far as I can see. I don't remember them having a debate about this, and I've certainly not been asked. I don't suppose you have, and I don't think anybody else has.
No, there's been no debate in the country. There's been no real debate in Parliament. There's been no kind of sense of why are we moving towards this. Because as you say, even though we've talked about how ultimately it's a sort of virtue signal with potentially disastrous consequences, and it will make, if anything, Britain more irrelevant to what happens in the near future in that part of the world. It is also a very significant step if you think about, how much historically we are connected to that region, the British mandate, so on and so forth. It would be this is an incredibly symbolic and significant moment, and yet it seems to have been entered into, drawn up on the back of a fag packet. They can't even answer basic questions about what this state would look like, who they expect to lead it. It's a real insult to people who care about this issue as much as anything else. This is, people who are very exercised about this question on either side of the conflict, to treat it purely as a political weapon to try and sort out your own voting coalition. It's shameful. It really is.
It really is. Because there's been no conversation about why or how or what if. Nothing at all in the national discourse. Not even really anyone writing articles for newspapers. Not one government minister have I seen, setting out the case for why it's going to be done this way. No. Seems extraordinary, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where if you look at the kind of the other leaders who have decided to do this recognition in concert, Emmanuel Macron is another good example. This is someone who, again, is fighting for his political life. I mean, he's on the way out anyway because of term limits and so on, but he's someone who is very likely to go down, like Keir Starmer, as a complete failure domestically. Any of the reforms he tried to push through didn't get anywhere.
Yeah, his popularity is now hit an all-time low, similar to Keir Starmer, actually.
Exactly. Keir Starmer just managed to get there a year in rather than, 2 terms in. But it's still, again, people... Aside from the domestic thing, there's also, when a politician is incredibly hated domestically, there is this temptation to posture on the international stage, to go to the summits, to look like you're, again, a grand person in history, helping to redraw the lines in the Middle East most intractable conflict. But that, again, can be so insulting because you're just using this horrific situation, ongoing war, as a sort of stage on which to stand and pose for the world's media.
As a campaign slogan.
Yeah, it's really, really grim.
It really is grim. Speaking of grim, let's talk about Fergie and Andrew, the pair on the front page of the Mail today. Will Fergie's Epstein emails allow Charles to finally exile the Yorks? This is a story that goes back to when she borrowed money from Jeffrey Epstein, back in the day when Andrew was always on the lookout for some help, shall we say, financially. And I think they bought... Did they not, that ski lodge in Switzerland with the money they borrowed from Epstein? But she has also now, it turns out, been writing very supportive emails for her supreme friend, as she calls him. When it emerged he had bailed her out financially, she claimed she'd only done so to save her career as a children's author. Oh, well, that's all right then. It's great, isn't it? These people have absolutely no moral compass whatsoever. She goes, well, I needed the money, so I went to this guy who I know was a convicted paedophile, but he's very rich, and so I just asked him for some money and he gave it to me, and I called him my supreme friend, and then sent him several other... so just weeks after telling the press she'd cut all ties with him, in an interview she said her involvement with Epstein had been a gigantic error of judgment. She still sent emails to him.
Yeah. And it seems like it was in response to him threatening some sort of defamation suit because of her public disavowals of him, but that doesn't make it any better, does it? I mean, it's still...
Oh, yeah, he threatened to blackmail me, so I said some nice things to him.
Yeah.
Right.
Whilst having claimed to have cut all ties. I mean, the whole thing stinks to high heaven. I mean, it doesn't... I don't think this will surprise many people, to be perfectly frank, given all of the grubby stuff that has fallen out of the relationship between Epstein and Andrew and now Fergie. But it's one of those things where you just think, at what point are we going to be surprised by this? Also, at what point does it just sort of force the hand of the rest of the royal family to properly make some kind of even clearer break with them? Because it's something which will continue to be just hung around their necks, really, this story. And confirm in the minds of some people...
And isn't it funny how her language is very, very similar to Peter Mandelson's language? She stands by what she said many years ago. She deeply regrets any association with him and abhors paedophilia. Oh, well, that's all right, then. She has worked for many years to support vulnerable young people. The Duchess spoke of her regret about her association with Epstein many years ago, as they have always been. Her first thoughts are with his victims. Well, apparently not. Apparently her first thoughts were, how can I get some money out of him? And if he threatens me, how can I be nice to him so he doesn't do anything horrible?
And it did put me in mind of the Mandelson emails, because of the fact that, first of all, this is after he's been convicted. Yeah. So this is something where, for people to carry on in their association with him after that suggests a pretty profound error in judgment, obviously. But also it's the obsequiousness of it, isn't it? Like the extent to which they really feel like they have to constantly kind of overly praise him in order to stay in his good books. It just shows what a kind of bizarre hold he had over certain people, you know, as particularly when they were financially...
Well, money does strange things to people, doesn't it? You know, and people like politicians in particular, and also members of the royal family. I mean, A.N. Wilson's got a piece in the Mail saying this is a scandal about money and greed. History tells us that's what always destroys monarchies around the world, because they can't stay away. You know, it's like people like Bill Clinton, people like Peter Mandelson. They love people with money, and they kind of overlook what it is that might have got them that money, or what they're doing with it, and how they spend their time. They just want to hang out with them because they're wealthy and they've got nice boats and cars and yachts and all sorts of things. You know, it's pretty shameful, really.
Absolutely. That power and influence as well seems to be one thing that Mandelson in particular was quite...
Which is why people, you know, I still would like to know what was going on with Lord Ali, in the sense that, you know, he was gaining access to Downing Street because he was a very wealthy man. Now, he might be very smart, he might be very interesting, he might have some great political ideas, but he's not elected. And so for him to have access to government on the basis that he gave the Labour Party a load of money, that's not good enough, I'm afraid. You know, I need to know what he was doing there.
Absolutely. And just because
but they've still never told us.
They haven't. And just because it's a story as old as time doesn't mean that it doesn't get people's backs up.
No.
Rightly so, because it's just that sense of, essentially buying political sway and influence, which has always happened, but at the same time does stink to high heavens.
Meanwhile, Prince Harry's on the front page of the Telegraph saying, with a story that says the King says Harry cannot be half in and half out from the royal family. This is because he apparently wants to come backwards and forwards and be more part of, you know, his dad's life. But he's been told, apparently in no uncertain terms, that he can't do a bit of it and not do all of it, you know.
I mean, this is kind of what he always wanted, wasn't it? He sort of wanted to be able to...
He just wants attention, doesn't he?
I think that's a large part of it, but also to maintain the kind of status of being a royal, to go to the events that he wants to go to, but to do it on a kind of part-time basis, that was never going to work, because it's an institution which you have to give yourself over to because of the fact that it's that kind of compact with the public, supposedly. You know, yes, they are supposedly reigning over us, but at the same time, there is this, at least, sense of service and commitment to the role. If you're doing it sort of half and half and still pursuing your Hollywood opportunities over there, people are just not going to go along with that.
Nobody cares. Coming up to very nearly 10 minutes to 7, Tom Slater's here. Morning, Mike and Tom. Starmer should take a long, hard look in the mirror, says Margaret in Birmingham. The worst Prime Minister of history, weak, useless and incompetent, appeasing his backbenchers and ignoring the British people and the hostage families. I think that's about spot on. Absolutely right. Coming up, we're going to talk about Gatwick and Heathrow. There was loads of cyber attacks over the weekend, which screwed up a lot of people's holiday plans. And also, apparently they're now going to have another Heathrow, there's a third runway being built at Heathrow, a second runway being built at Gatwick. How does this fit in with the old green credentials of Ed Miliband, I find myself asking. Coming up after this.
since the October 7th massacre because that was a popular decision on the Palestinian street. And the reason that that barbaric violence was so popular among Palestinians is because they think the world is rewarding them for it. They see countries lining up to recognize a Palestinian state, not as a reward for peace, but as a reward for the October 7th massacre, and they get the message that terrorism works. This step that the UK is about to take will only make Hamas more popular.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:53. This from Michelle, who says, Mike, what an abhorrent joke. Hamas wants a one-state solution, utter appeasement. Listening to Salami destroys more brain cells than wine. I think that's right. And Nan in Wales says, this government has done nothing but bring ridicule and shame on our country. He cannot be allowed to speak on our behalf and cannot be allowed to continue in power. They are dangerous and they have to go. So many people now saying those kinds of things about this government because they are really just screwing everything up. Dreadful. Let's get a voice note from Hev.
Good morning, Mike. Hev from Kent. Yeah, as far as Starmer goes, well, he speaks for himself. He certainly doesn't speak for me. I'm absolutely disgusted. Absolutely disgusted. And I wonder why, what his wife thinks, you know. Great show. Thank you.
Hev, thanks very much indeed. Just a little change of tack for a moment. Front page of The Sun this morning, Special Forces horror. Special Forces soldier shot a comrade 7 times by accident after using live ammo instead of blanks during a training exercise, which I guess is something that shouldn't ever happen, but will occasionally happen if you have, you know, on the, one box over here of live ammo and one box over here of, you know, blanks.
No, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like he was only just about saved by his body armour.
Yeah.
He survived it, but has ended up with life-changing injuries as a consequence.
Right.
And a lot of kind of questions about, again, 7 times. I mean, I imagine, depending on what they were using, it could have been, you know, quite quick fire, as it were. But what a horrific thing
Isn't
to
it awful?
take place.
I mean, it had not been compulsory for the drill. The soldier said he wore the body armour just by chance, really. He made the other equipment he had to carry fit better. Lieutenant Colonel Emma Whiting was moved to tears as she read out his victim's statement. The soldier said, "There is no doubt if I hadn't been wearing my body armour, I would have been shot dead." Amazing. Just like, I suppose it's a kind of a casual danger of being a soldier in training. Things are going to happen, but you know, it's a great story from The Sun's point of view. Shocking details emerged as the elite serviceman got a suspended jail term at a military court in Wiltshire, which said there were various military multiple safety failures. So very worrying indeed.
And people expect to put their life on their lines for their country or to be out in the battlefield, but for that to happen, you know, in training, it must have been such a horrific shock to them.
Absolutely. A couple more clips for you. Here's more footage of Donald Trump after leaving the state banquet from Air Force One.
I think being with King Charles, he's a wonderful guy. Got to know him very well. I knew him before, but now I know him a lot better. The artwork. I saw more paintings than any human being has ever saw, and statues. But they treated us great. They treated our country great. What did you eat? What did you eat? Whatever the hell they served. I don't know whatever they served.
He wasn't sure what he ate. It was French, that's all I know. I mean, that was one of the other questions. You know, Starmer spends all of his time telling us he doesn't like portraits in Downing Street, doesn't like the eyes of the portraits following him. In Chequers, right, the portraits were everywhere. There were literally portraits following him around the room.
He must have been terrified.
He must have been terrified. But have a look at him do it. This is very weird, right, even for him. This is Keir Starmer thanking the security at Chequers.
Chequers TFC to all units. I'm passing you now over to the Prime Minister for a short message.
Hello, thank you so much for all your hard work and professionalism and dedication.
To make this event a complete success. It's never been done before in the history of the United Kingdom.
And you have absolutely played a blinder.
To pull off something of this scale, of
this importance, seamlessly, is something you should be hugely proud of.
Thank you for your support, Prime Minister.
From the Gulf Command to the Prime Minister, thank you very much for your message on behalf of everybody.
Thank you.
Nice T-shirt. Somebody actually came up with that as an idea.
Yeah.
To say, I know, let's get Keir Starmer on a walkie-talkie, where bizarrely he sounds even less robotic than he does in real life, talking to the police, thanking them for doing the job that they're paid to do.
Exactly.
And saying nobody's ever seen anything like it.
Looking like he's just played a game of five-a-side or something. It's very, very odd. And also...
I hate the fact that we're paying for all that as well.
Why are they doing it for the walkie-talkie as well? Why don't they just show him, you know, shaking hands, gland-handing? Maybe they didn't want to get that close to him, who knows? But it's one of those things where you just think, I get what you were trying to do here. Yeah. You failed miserably.
Well, once again,
like that.
badly conceived, badly thought out, badly executed. That's him. He's in trouble as well with some hidden money, isn't there? £700,000 worth of hidden donations have been discovered. This was a story at the weekend involving the mysterious Morgan McSweeney, who seems to have either forgotten or deliberately not registered a whole load of money that was coming in to try and destabilise Jeremy Corbyn in order to get this mob into power.
No, absolutely. So this is the sort of Labour Together group which McSweeney was spearheading. Kind of sounded innocuous enough, but it was basically about getting rid of the left of the party and installing some sort of new, more centrist, more electable figure. He got behind Keir Starmer. Again, there were some donations which were declared originally, but then a big period in which there weren't. I think it's about £750,000 that's being talked about here. And then as soon as McSweeney leaves, suddenly the donations are hastily, you know, retrospectively declared. So it's just raised a lot of questions about, is this trying to obscure this? There's also legal advice that Labour Together, or the government, I believe, actually received about how to respond to this. They should claim that it was human error, which they then in turn did. So it just is another sense of sleaze hanging over this government. And it's one of those things where if they hadn't made...
Well, it's all very convenient, isn't it?
Exactly. And also, if they hadn't made such a big song and dance about the question of ethics in politics and making sure that you're as squeaky clean as possible, then they might not have haunted them to the extent that it has. These sort of dealings are often the business of politics, but because they were going around posing as complete angels where everything was concerned 5 minutes ago...
Nothing could be further from the truth. Well, now Shabana Mahmood and Steve Reid, two fairly seriously heavyweight cabinet members, are being asked to explain how it is that they seem to have been misleading the Electoral Commission. So that story's going to run for a bit, I should imagine. Tom, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. We didn't get around to talking about the second runway at Gatwick, but we will be doing that coming up a little bit later on in the show. But also talk more about Nigel Farage and his plan to save £230 billion by sending back hundreds of thousands of migrants if Reform wins the next election. I'll be back with more of all sorts of things after the news right here on Talk.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash, 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 smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People schmiggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... Those... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, he's literally, all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left left the EU. I do not accept that that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer is on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work. You just can't say it.
It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world, as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 3 minutes past 7. I'm Mike Graham. It is Monday, the 22nd of September. The sun is up, ladies and gentlemen, and you should probably be as well now, because it's that sort of time. I don't mind if you don't get up for the first hour, because that's fair enough, but, you know, there's lots to do, things to be getting on with. England, of course, must do its duty, as they used to say. So should Great Britain, so should Keir Starmer. He's on the front pages this morning, getting all sorts of batterings, because, of course, on the front page of the Daily Mail, for example, Hamas claims victory after Starmer hands out a prize for terrorism. They call it Labour's Day of Shame. Hamas claimed victory yesterday after Sir Keir Starmer awarded a prize for terrorism by recognising a future state of Palestine. Nobody knows why he's done it. Nobody knows why he did it without seemingly consulting not only the nation but also Parliament. Hamas declares victory after Starmer recognises Palestine. Front page of the Daily Telegraph. Front page of the Times goes the same way. Palestine recognition, great prize for Hamas. The Prime Minister condemned by Israel and the families of the hostages. And by pretty much all of you as well this morning, it would seem none of you are actually buying this idea that somehow we're going to get some closer to a two-state solution in the Middle East just because the United Kingdom has gone along with Canada and France and decided to recognise Palestine. Let's get a voice note from Lee.
Lee from Chelmsford. I'd rather him spend his time sorting out the mess in the channel rather than worrying about what's going on in Palestine. We had over 1,100 people turn up on Friday and we managed to get rid of 3. He needs to forget all these deals with other countries, one in, one out, and just secure the southern border with the military. Anything else is a complete and utter waste of time. All the best.
Exactly right. It's still the biggest single story affecting Britain right now, and that's the immigration crisis that we have on our hands. As you might remember from last week, they've now sent 3 people back on the one-in, one-out plan, when as many as 1,000 arrived on Friday alone. So that's still, you know what, 997 to go. It's absolutely shambolic and ridiculous that he thinks that somehow recognising a place where even more asylum seekers could come from, even more illegal migrants could come from, that's somehow going to help Britain. It isn't. Nigel Farage on the front page of the Daily Telegraph says he'll kick out hundreds of thousands of migrants, both legal and illegal. They call it the Boris Wave. Something like 3.8 million people who came here during the time of Boris Johnson's post-Brexit prime ministership, and they're now here gaining all sorts of benefits and taking the mickey out of this country. He says he's going to pledge to abolish independent leave to remain, unlimited leave to remain, if you want to call it that, and basically will ask everybody who's here supposedly on a visa that they'll have to reapply and they'll face even stricter criteria. Therefore, many of them will probably be kicked out of the country for not speaking good enough English or indeed having a high enough salary. Because after all, if you get a job here with a low salary, you end up getting universal credit to back up that money. 0344 499 1000 is the number. It's coming up to 6 minutes past 7. Let's get it on. And so, welcome back to the home of common sense. Does the UK government recognition of the Palestine state, says Bill in Cheshire, make it easier for Palestinians to head to the UK to claim asylum? Well, it's a very good question. Are we setting ourselves up for a huge wave of Palestinian immigration? I wouldn't be surprised. And Tony says this: Starmer has recognised Palestine to shore up the Labour Party, nothing more. That's from Tony. Many of you can get through to us, of course. You can text us on 87222. You can find us at X, at talkTV, and you can send us a voicemail to 0344 499 1000. Let's talk now to Robert Taylor, political columnist, because he'll have a thing or two to say about this, I'm sure. Front pages this morning, Robert, very much focused on this recognition of Palestine. We've been saying in the first hour, this government didn't see fit to have this conversation in Parliament. They didn't see fit to have this conversation in the public space. I don't even remember seeing anybody going on TV to make the case as to why we need to recognise Palestine. It's a pretty desperate move, isn't it, by Starmer?
It certainly is very desperate, and it's all about Labour Party politics, of course. It's all about shoring up his left. He knows that he deceived, this is Starmer, he deceived the Labour left into giving him the leadership 4 years ago. He said, I'm going to be continuity Corbyn, you can trust me. I'm just going to be like Jeremy Corbyn, only a better politician. And it was all, I'm afraid, deceiving. And now, with the left going against him and talking about a leadership challenge, he's doing something which will, he hopes, give him a bit more time with his own party. It's all about Labour politics and nothing about the international situation.
No, exactly right. Because, again, you know, well let me play this this clip from David Lammy attempting to explain why this actually happened. And I think this tells you all you need to know about the logic behind the decision.
You want to recognise an independent state, but you're telling that independent state who its leaders should be. I think we used to call that a colony.
No. One, let us not confuse the Palestinian people with Hamas.
No,
two, let us recognise...
The question is, who's in government? Are you saying that you will not recognise the Palestinian state if Hamas is part of government? Or are you saying it doesn't matter who's in government and you will recognise them come what may?
Trevor, your viewers know that we are some significant distance from two states.
Yes, and he doesn't seem to know why asking for a two-state solution is something that nobody's actually asking for in the Middle East.
Well, this is it. I mean, the way I look at it, Mike, is this going to bring peace any closer? Is this going to help the situation in Gaza? It isn't. It's just posturing by the Labour Party. And most importantly, is this going to embolden Hamas? I think it will. They're already declaring victory. They're already saying, look what Keir Starmer's done. Look what the British Prime Minister has done. It's a victory for us. Is that going to free up the hostages? It's going to do the opposite. It's going to embolden Hamas. I actually think this is a fairly disgraceful decision by...
I agree with you. No, I think it's absolutely shocking. And the reaction, judging by the reaction from my audience this morning, they're equally disgusted by what's been going on and how this has come about. Because as I say, there's been no conversation in Parliament. There's been no debate. There's been no kind of, you know, attempt to try and explain why this has been done. And nobody believes a word of this idea that it brings them closer to a peaceful solution. We're now moving further away from one of our closest allies in the world, in Israel, which has all sorts of security implications, I think.
Yeah, and there's a quote coming out from Hamas yesterday. This is the fruits of October the 7th. In other words, this is the reward we are getting from Britain and Canada and Australia for what we did on October the 7th. In other words, they're going to be emboldened. They're going to say, the more we play hardball here, the more we'll get recognition from weak prime ministers like Keir Starmer.
Yeah, it is absolutely shocking. One thing we can look forward to coming up shortly this weekend, I suppose, is the Lib Dem conference, which is going on. Ed Davey appeared on Sky News answering some quick-fire questions. Check this out.
Sarah Davey, quick-fire round here. Coffee or tea?
Tea in the mornings, coffee in the afternoons.
Dogs or cats?
Cats and dogs. I love them both.
Fish and chips or pizza?
Fish and chips.
Jet skiing or hobby horse jumping?
Jet skis.
What do you usually grab for lunch?
Normally it's a bit of soup and maybe salami.
Favourite novel?
I've just read There Are Rivers in the Sky, which is fantastic.
Favourite song?
Of course, it's Sweet Caroline.
Trump or Musk?
Neither.
Any phobias?
Don't like Donald Trump, don't like Elon Musk.
I see. Well, that doesn't make me... It doesn't get my vote, I'm afraid.
No, I mean, it's a pretty tricky situation to be in with those quick-fire questions. You suddenly think you're going to say something stupid, something's going to come back and haunt you.
Well, he always says something stupid. That's the great thing about Ed Davey.
Well,
he always long.
It reminds me a bit of Gordon Brown having to check with his advisors what he should say if he was asked what his favourite biscuit was, in case he said something silly. But, yeah, it's not great for the Lib Dem leader, that little quick-fire round, is it?
No, it really isn't. And I suppose the story that will be of most interest, certainly to the people listening and watching this show, is Nigel Farage on the front page of the Telegraph saying that he's going to kick out hundreds of thousands of people. The Boris wave, 3.8 million people who came here in the wake of us leaving Brexit. They moved to the UK under more relaxed rules thanks to Boris Johnson, and they're all still here.
Yeah, they are. And, you know, this just shows that Farage has absolutely hit a nerve with everything he's saying about both legal and illegal immigration. And it's the former, it's the legal immigration, of course, is actually by far the bigger issue. You know, 750,000 people coming in here every year legally, and he's saying we've got to get on top of this. The illegal migration across the channel, of course, gets the headlines, but it's the illegal migration, people coming here with visas, students then getting a visa to stay on in the UK, that is actually the far bigger issue. And I think Farage is right to tackle this. He's just got to be careful he doesn't throw out the baby with the bathwater and penalise a lot of people who have made a contribution to this country, been here for years and decades, having the right to remain. Those people are here for good reason. They've contributed to the UK. We mustn't throw out the baby with the...
No, I think that's fine, but I think hopefully whatever new sort of criteria that he would bring in would weed out those people, because, you know, we want people who are going to be making enough money to contribute to the tax system in the country. What we don't need are more people who are going to be a drain on the tax system, and I think that's his point, isn't it? Because the problem is an awful lot of people have come, and they may well be contributing, but they may have also brought a load of other people with them who aren't.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So he's just got to get the definition of this right. I mean, if he can save 230 billion, it does seem to be a fairly big number, that, and a number that I struggle to believe, 230 billion. It's easy to say when you're in opposition, more difficult to actually do when you're in government. Let's see what Farage comes up with after 2029.
Yeah, well, I don't think he's going to have to wait that long, to be honest, Robert. I don't think this you know, the doings of this government over the weekend have not in any way diminished what was going on before this weekend and before the Donald Trump visit. I think a lot of people got a bit distracted during Donald Trump's time here last week because they forgot that the Labour government was running this country literally into the ground. And then we see them come back with this Palestinian decision at the weekend. So now today we can start again to look at exactly what they're actually doing with our money, what they're doing with the economy, what they're doing with the numbers of people who are unemployed, because it looks as though now I think unemployment is going to hit a 5-year high, according to a piece in the Telegraph. Unemployment on course to hit a 5-year here. Struggling businesses brace for the Chancellor to launch yet another tax rate. Joblessness rate is expected to hit 4.9% in the next year.
Yeah, I mean, there is no doubt in my mind that Labour has crashed the economy. This is a phrase that they fondly use about Liz Truss. Well, to me, they've done exactly the same. I think the budget coming up is going to be an absolute disaster. One way or another, what Rachel Reeves has got to do is put up taxes, because she doesn't have the stomach for cutting spending, and her own side won't allow her to do that. So it's going to be another tax-raising budget. It's going to be another economy-destroying budget. And if Starmer is to survive till 2029, or if Labour is to survive to 2029, then something's going to have to change very rapidly in number 11 Downing Street. Starting with the upcoming budget.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm not sure they've got anywhere to go. Meanwhile, another interesting story from the weekend, I don't know if you've seen this one, a call for a police probe into a claim that her Prime Minister's top aide Morgan McSweeney hid £700,000 worth of donations to boost Keir Starmer's political career. This goes back a few years, but it's basically, it could be anyway, a breach of electoral law. Interesting, because it then ropes in various people who are now supposed to be in charge of electoral law.
Yeah, now this one to me is far more serious than Mandelson. It's far more serious than the Paul Ovenden, the advisor who was sacked last week for various nasty WhatsApp jokes. It's even more serious than Rayner, because this is what the accusation is that Labour Together, this campaign movement that tried to get Starmer into Downing Street, try and win the Labour leadership from Jeremy Corbyn, deliberately hid donations from the Electoral Commission for political gain. They didn't want to show the wider Labour Party how many donations they were getting for Keir Starmer, where those donations were coming from. So the accusation is that they deliberately said, this is human error. That's why we failed to declare these donations. If that is proved accurate, this could be very serious for Morgan McSweeney and the knock-on effect, of course, for Keir Starmer.
Yeah, because it sort of is stretching credulity slightly, isn't it, by saying that, you know, up until this particular date, we were managing to register all of the donations we were receiving. But then when suddenly loads of money started coming in, we weren't able to register it because we made a mistake. And you kind of go, really? You know, and as they say in Scotland, do you think my head zips up the back?
It's a very convenient excuse, isn't it? When we wanted to hide these donations, it was just human error. When it no longer needed to be hid from the public and from the Electoral Commission, suddenly we were able to log them and register them. It doesn't ring true at all, and I think there's something to be found out about this one. Could be very embarrassing for Labour and the Prime Minister.
Could be very embarrassing indeed. Thanks very much indeed. Good to talk to you. Robert Taylor, their political columnist, with his views on some of the big stories this morning doing the rounds. We'll get to more of them as we go. Have a voice note here from Daniel.
Hi, Mike. This is Daniel calling from Tel Aviv. And on the Palestinian state recognition, I mean, most people just need to be honest and analyze how they govern, or they've been governing their own population at every given chance, whether it's in Gaza or the West Bank. And yeah, I mean, the fact that Hamas is applauding the UK's decision is very telling. And we'll see what comes next. But until they don't get rid of the fantasy vision of From the River to the Sea, which these days is quite trendy to sing around campuses, I'm afraid they do see this as a stepping stone on a wider holy war.
Yeah, I'm afraid they do. Thanks very much indeed for that, Daniel. This from Sky News Australia. It's been sent to me actually by Sue. Hamas has publicly executed 3 men in a graphic video released hours before Prime Minister Anthony Albanese defended recognising Palestine as a step towards, in his words, ending the cycle of violence. Well, possibly slightly off the mark there, isn't it? Because the cycle of violence is the one caused by Hamas, obviously. Margaret, or my nickname Fafa from Birmingham, the joke that is Ed Davey. Did you see him and the marching band? Well, can you imagine him and Ed Miliband? 2 Eds are better than 1. No, absolutely not. Margaret, thanks very much indeed. Let's have a look at Davey with his marching band. He came into Lib Dem Party conference wearing a sash and a shirt that looks slightly too tight for him, marching next to a marching band. I don't know what do you think he's doing? I think I preferred him falling into, you know, water, to be honest. Very strange. Very strange indeed. 0344 499 1000 is the number. We'll bring you more of Ed Davey's madness, because it does. If you think that's mad, wait till you hear what some of his policies are with the Lib Dem conference. Coming up, Matt Vickers is going to join us. He's Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party. Coming next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, coming up to 7:23 in the morning. We're here with you, of course, till 10 o'clock, all the way through for the next couple of hours and a bit. Coming up, Matt Vickers is going to join us, Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party. Let's get a voice note first from Ian.
Good morning, Michael. Ian from Goxhill here. I was just wondering whether this new Palestinian state government will be anti-Israel. Do you think the Palestinian people will elect a government that doesn't bear a grudge against Israel after all that's happened? I don't think so, do you?
Doesn't seem likely. Also, there's not much chance of them electing anybody, given that they haven't had an election since 2005, when they elected Hamas. Hamas, of course, is currently governing in Gaza. But as David Lammy was asked, do you know who you're actually dealing with? Who is actually the government of Palestine? There isn't one. That's what's ridiculous. Let's have a look at what Keir Starmer said yesterday.
In the face of the growing horror in the Middle East, we are acting to keep alive the possibility of peace and a two-state solution. That means a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable Palestinian state. At the moment, we have neither. So today, to revive the hope of peace and a two-state solution, I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the state of Palestine.
I mean, I don't know about you, Matt Vickers. Very good morning to you. Does he think he's making some kind of, statement of history that he wants to have replayed over and over again after he's dead? Because he sounds like he's trying to be very serious here. But he's had no conversations, as far as I know, in Parliament about this. He's had no debate in Parliament about it. He's not asked the British public if they want us to recognise Palestine. What's he doing?
It's utterly shameful. Do you know, we should be teaming up with the US. We should be going in there. We should be getting those hostages back and doing everything we can to get those hostages back. We should be looking at what's going on in Gaza, how we get that aid in to better serve those innocent women and children who are in the horrific humanitarian crisis. And we should be making sure that Hamas are nowhere near the levers of power. Instead, he's playing to his own backbenchers. I cannot for a minute believe that he thinks this is in the interests of the people of Gaza, the people of Israel, or the people of the United Kingdom. It's literally his own leadership bid. The only thing it's helping is his own interests. He senses there's blood in the water. He knows his party are after him. He wants to appease his lefty chums and keep them in line. And this is the answer. This government is a disaster. It's come to office, and all it does, because it had no plan to govern, it had no agenda for to take this country forward, it just distracts with student politics. The NHS, no plan to fix it. Let's bring in assisted dying and distract from it. No plan to create jobs for young people. Let's bring in votes at 16 and distract from it. No plan to deal with the Middle East and how we protect those people in Gaza, protect Israel and give it the freedom to protect itself. Instead, this is just a huge distraction to appease his own backbenchers. Our national foreign policy dictated to by loony lefties, the backbenchers of the Labour Party, it is appalling, it is shameful, and it's a disgrace to the office.
And it makes it even more shameful, as you describe it there, because of the motivation for it. And as I said, I mean, how is he able to do this as a nation, as the representative of our nation, without actually consulting the people of the nation?
Well, 9 in 10 people, we saw the poll at the weekend, 9 in 10 people disagree with this. 9 in 10 British taxpayers, the people who he is supposed to be representing on that international stage, disagree entirely with him. And meanwhile, Hamas are over there celebrating. They're saying that this is victory. They see this as a reward. They went out there, they inflicted these horrendous atrocities on people, disgusting, vile acts. And this is their just desserts. This is what they get as a result. It's not even about negotiating with terrorists. He's rewarding terrorists. It's just disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, will you or somebody from your party raise this in Parliament? Because I know there's a recess at the moment, but it needs to be raised.
We most definitely will be. I mean, it's just not acceptable. I don't think it's acceptable to reasonable people from different political parties across the spectrum. It is just not acceptable. We should be working in lockstep with the US to bring about an end to some of these terrible things that we're seeing.
Absolutely. Matt, thanks very much indeed. Matt Vickers, MP, Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party, agreeing with me that this is all about self-aggrandisement for Keir Starmer, all about appeasing a left wing of his party, all about hoping that he'll be able to stay in power just that little bit longer if he can do something which people like and think is a popular move for the lefties and the crazies in his party, because that is what we're talking about here. Let's get a voice note from Sean.
Morning, Mike. Sean from Grimsby. As a bloke from Grimsby, I wonder if someone could explain to me how recognising a state called Palestine that is overrun by terrorists is going to make my life any better. Normally, when our government comes up with a genius idea like this, it costs us billions of pounds and involves importing millions of people. I don't want to import any of these people. You know, these are not nice people. And I just don't understand why. Why support a country run by terrorists? This is absolutely mental. Great show, Mike.
Sean, it is completely and utterly mental. And, of course, nobody that's listening to this show or watching it can understand it. Richie says, morning, Mike, an appalling decision by Starmer to reward terrorism. Could a Reform Party government unrecognise Palestine, or is this now permanent? I'm not sure. It's a good question. I'll see if I can find out an answer to it. Let's talk to Lucy White, public policy specialist, because, as I say, we shouldn't forget that just before all of this happened, you know, in the wake of the visit by Donald Trump, the second state visit, which happened last Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we saw that the so-called one-in, one-out policy had begun. And they were all singing from the rooftops, weren't they? Oh, we've managed to send one person back. Oh, now we've sent two back. Oh, now we've sent three back. 3 people sent back, while meanwhile 1,072 people came in over the course of the last few days. And no doubt more will be coming today, because it doesn't look too bad out there this morning weather-wise. Lucy, very good morning to you.
Hi, Mike. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm all right. I don't really like to use the phrase one in, one out, because it's nothing like one in, one out, and it's just a sort of invention by the Labour government to try and make people think that it's somehow a good thing. We know clearly that it isn't, because you've got 3 out and 1,072 in, plus another 3, because what we don't know, and I don't know whether you do, is that there was supposed to be a plane coming in on Saturday from France with some migrants on it who had been pre-approved to come to Britain. So actually there's even more people coming now than there were before.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just having the concept of one in, one out would anyway balance the current level. It doesn't mean we're reducing the number of illegal migrants in the country. If anything, it's just remaining the same. Yeah. And it almost sounds like a joke. It's like an Indian, an Eritrean and an Iranian walk into a bar, or get smuggled into the United Kingdom, and then they just get sent to France. And what's interesting is if you look at the case of the Indian illegal migrant who actually has been sent to France, so France are going to have to forcibly remove him, or he can go back to India voluntary on the basis that France will give him 2,500 euros to leave and then pay his air flight back to India. But as we know, India is not a war-torn country. We're just being taken by fools. And quite frankly, why should France even have to pay for this man to go back home? He shouldn't be here in the first place. He should not be in Europe in the first place. And if you think about the number of illegal migrants that have entered by small boat since Sir Keir Starmer entered in July, it's around 55,000 now. So even in this one-in, one-out policy, as you said, Mike, we've had over 1,000 enter on Friday alone in a single day. Yeah. So we'd be needing to send out 1,000 to 2,000 every single day to France with 0 entering, not 1,000 in, 3 out. We need 0 in and thousands out per day.
And that's the problem, because one of the things that David Lammy said towards the back end of last week was that this is now going to act as a deterrent. Well, it didn't act as a deterrent on Friday, did it?
No, exactly. And I think the only sort of good thing about this policy is that at least France has been deemed by our woke judges as a safe country to send the illegal migrants back to. So someone called Justice Sheldon, he actually said France is a safe country and therefore the illegal migrants can be sent there. Whereas if you look at the Rwanda policy, it was heavily critiqued because of its human rights failures. So at least with these lefty judges, we've managed to convince them of France. But one of the other concerns is if you look at some of the barristers defending the illegal migrants from being deported to France, there's a lady called Sonali Naik KC, who is of Asian descent. She is defending some of these illegal migrants, particularly she stopped one Eritrean from going back. And so why on earth are there barristers in this country working against a British interest? So we need to start naming and shaming these barristers. And her name is Sonali Naik. So yes, shame on her.
And so many of them seem to double up as kind of, working for free for various, migrant charities, working as advisors to various migrant charities, helping people to work out how to get around the law. Surely they should be completely neutral if they're going to be making judgments on people's immigration status. They shouldn't be helping, people to show them how to get around the law. It's insane.
Yeah, exactly. It's completely biased. It's completely against the British interests. And some of these barristers, if you look into the cases of how the illegal migrants have, that's why there's only 3 that have left so far, because these lefty barristers have defended the illegal migrants, saying that there wasn't enough time to prepare a legal case to defend the illegal migrants. But the point is, Mike, we already know that they are illegal. They've committed a crime by entering our country illegally. So what time is there needed to prepare a case for them, actually? We already know that they've entered the country illegally. That's evidence enough. What more evidence do you need?
Yeah, exactly right. I remember Justice Sheldon, might be better off with that bloke from the Big Bang Theory than having one of these characters, but there we are. 7:33, thank you very much indeed. Good to talk to you. Lucy White, Public Policy Specialist. Coming up, the one and only Kinsey Schofield is going to be here, because a couple of royal stories we need to get our heads around. Harry and Meghan make a surprise joint appearance, as he says he's going to meet his father regularly, but he's told by his father he can't have a half-in, half-out relationship with the royal family. And now also the Duchess of York in hot water over some emails that she wrote to her supreme friend, the, of course, famous, infamous paedophile, Jeffrey Epstein. It's all going on. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 7:37 very nearly. What is Starmer on about? About checkers? Never been done before. Checkers has hosted hundreds of world leaders over the years, says Pete. And also this one from Gurdeep. Good morning, Mike. Starmer does not speak for the people of the UK. The papers are saying the UK announces Palestine as a state. The only people he speaks for are the Muslims who are his bloc voters and the illegal immigrants. Well, this is true, but also all of his lefty mates who are all terrified of upsetting anyone who might or might not want Palestine to be recognised. So we better recognise it. Absolutely extraordinary. Let's get a voice note from Boz.
Morning, Mike, and the breakfast team. Travelling Boz here. So once again, Starmer has made his own mind up on what he's doing without asking nobody, going through anything. He's supposed to serve Great Britain, not do his own thing. He's the Prime Minister with the un-Midas touch. because everything he touches turns sour. Absolutely. Joke.
It is absolutely right. Good to hear from you, Boz. Thanks very much indeed. Let's take our attention elsewhere, though. It's in California, to be precise. Kinsey Schofield is here, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, our favourite royal correspondent. Kinsey, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. So good to see you. I think we've had a pretty busy weekend in the royal watching community.
Yes, you absolutely have. I mean, they're on the front pages again, Andrew and Fergie together. A picture of Andrew looking very stern. I think the picture's actually from the Duchess of Kent's funeral. But will Fergie's Epstein emails allow Charles to finally exile the Yorks? It doesn't look great, does it, this email exchange that she seems to have had?
It doesn't. And over the weekend, the Daily Beast talked to Andrew Loney, who wrote that recent book about Prince Andrew. And Andrew says that he feels that it was more than £15,000 that Fergie actually borrowed from Epstein. He said it's more along the lines of £2 million that Fergie borrowed from Epstein, which would justify some of those overly gushy, gooey sentences in that apology email. I mean, 15,000, you know, but 2 million. Yeah, you're going to have to do some begging and some, you know, begging for forgiveness and some sucking up.
I mean, the problem for her, of course, is 15,000 doesn't go very far in the world of Fergie. And there was some suggestion, was there not, that one of the things that they used his money for was to secure the ski lodge somewhere in Switzerland, and which would have cost an awful lot more than 15 grand, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I just think that this should be the final straw for King Charles. Will he do it? I don't know. In my opinion, we've seen a bit of weakness in him in the form of a 54-minute tea with Prince Harry. I would love to see him put his foot down and be more firm when it comes to the Duke and Duchess of York. However, you know, there was a lot of criticism about their appearance at the Duchess of Kent's funeral. You know, I knew people inside. They said audible gasps when they walked in the room at the funeral, that a lot of people couldn't believe they were there. But again, that would have been under the category of a family event. So normally they would be welcomed at something like that. It's royal events where they seem to be in timeout.
Yes. I mean, a couple of the quotes here will put everybody's minds, I'm sure, in the right place. You have always been a steadfast, generous and supreme friend to me and my family. And then she talks about how can I thank you enough? You are a friend indeed, and I will one day give it you back. But I cannot have the words to thank you now. And she calls him her dear, dear friend, Geoffrey.
It doesn't look great, Mike. It does not look good at all, especially when we saw a few weeks ago, thanks to other Epstein emails, that Prince Andrew did not break off their friendship at the point in time that he told the BBC that they did. Obviously, these two look very dishonest. They look like opportunists, and they look greedy and vulgar.
Yeah, which is surprising, really, because that's not what they are, is it? Nothing could be further from the truth. Greedy and vulgar. I mean, you know, it looks as though now they're going to be told to stay away from public events, because I don't know if you saw, there was another bit of footage of Andrew standing next to Prince William at that funeral and making some kind of what was clearly meant to be some kind of funny remarks to William, and William just completely blanks him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that video have gone any more viral? With poor Prince William looking like he wanted to be anywhere else in the world, but standing next to Prince Andrew. One of the journalists at Marie Claire wrote, if the pointed non-reaction is considered an art, Prince William has officially perfected it regarding that video. Absolutely.
And they're likely now going to be told to stay away from Christmas at Sandringham, because one of the things I remember that happened was there was a bit of a softening towards Andrew and Fergie, wasn't there, after the Duke of Edinburgh died, Prince Philip, because he was thought to be the one that really couldn't stand her, and after he passed away, the suggestion was that she might be welcomed back into the big house, because she'd always been left at the bottom of the road. But it looks like it's back to the bottom of the road for them, and maybe not even anywhere near the estate.
I mean, this is the consequences of their own actions.
Yeah.
I wish that I could say anything to defend them, but they have been troublemakers for decades now, and really are such liabilities when it comes to the future of the British royal family. And if they had any, pride or dignity whatsoever, I think they would just disappear.
Right.
But their refusal to quietly go away, it just shows you the arrogance we're dealing with. And if I were in your position, I wouldn't want those people representing my country as members of the British monarchy.
Definitely not. Similar things being written this morning about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They made a surprise appearance in Santa Barbara with, was it Kevin Costner's estate it was all going on?
So this is an event that they do every year, and it is for the firefighters in the area, in the Santa Barbara area. Last year, Meghan didn't attend, and Prince Harry attended solo. And it was interesting because the year before that, they did attend together.
Right.
And there was this extremely awkward moment on the stage where Meghan almost played tug-of-war with a woman for a microphone. So Meghan did not... she didn't take the sage, and she didn't have the presence that she did that first year where we saw her kind of take the microphone from a woman that didn't want to give her the microphone. It's clear if you're there that Prince Harry is who they want to be dealing with,
right.
That Prince Harry is who they want on the stage, Prince Harry who they want fronting all of this. And so that first year, I think Meghan embarrassed herself. Maybe that's why she didn't show up the second year, and this year she kind of sat back and let Prince Harry take the stage and do his thing. But you're right, Rob Lowe was there, Oprah Winfrey was there. I don't think we saw Oprah and Harry and Meghan engaging with each other. We haven't seen them engage with each other in a while,
right.
If I'm being honest with you. But, I'm not going to criticize them for doing a little charity. When they stepped down as working members of the British royal family, they promised to live a life of service. And I'm glad we've seen the 1% of it here, of their life of service, the one charity event I've seen Meghan Markle at in over a year.
Right.
Thanks, Meghan.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks very much indeed. Maybe she could give us a few more recipes of things that she's never cooked before for the first time. Here I am trying to cook something. You should try it too. OK, then. Meanwhile, he's being told that he can't have it both ways, as ever, because he's done that thing where he came here, and I watched you on, I think it was Jeremy's show last week, talking about how maybe they tested him to see what he would do after meeting his father, and he pretty much spilled his guts on everything that happened there. But they've said to him, no, you can't just keep coming in and out and being half in, half out. If you want to come back, fine, but, you can't just pretend you want to come back every now and again and take part.
Well, I think what infuriated most of us was this headline from the Daily Mail over the weekend. It was King and Harry to meet regularly as royal aides plan show of unity. And the idea in that article was that they could potentially, it sounded like, be doing royal engagements together. And if you are a regular royal watcher and a supporter of this monarchy, you think, well, wouldn't it be more beneficial for the king to be seen with his heir?
Yeah.
The young man that's going to take over for him one day, isn't that more important, that united front, and to show Prince William the ropes? But then Rebecca English swoops right in and says, not so fast, in the same publication, the Daily Mail, and says, pump the brakes here. My palace sources say absolutely not. And this is all Sussex propaganda. I think the ultimate objective is for Prince Harry to improve his public image. But there were also reports coming out of the Daily Beast over the weekend that while Harry was in town, he signed Archie up for Eton. I have heard from several people that Archie was talking about wanting his children to go to school in the UK while he was there. So could the ultimate objective be to move the family back or to move his children back? And he's trying to make nice with the public because he wants to do that. Either way, I think he's a totally self-consumed individual, and I don't think that there's any benefit to the royal family to bring him back into the fold.
Yeah, I know. Extraordinary stuff. Let me just, before I leave you, just get your view of that extraordinary speech by Erica Kirk last night in Arizona, where she said she forgave the killer of her husband. And what an extraordinary event as well. Thousands and thousands of people. The president flying in for Elon Musk was there, J.D. Vance. Very emotional stuff.
It was beautiful. Charlie was my friend, and I've never been more proud of him, to see all those people standing up and to testify about the person he was, and to acknowledge how many people he's brought to Christ throughout this horrible event. Erica is the most beautiful woman, and you know, talking about how faith is a constant practice that you have to do, and you know, obviously saying that she forgave the killer. She's going to change a lot of people's hearts and minds. And you know what annoyed me about that? When Trump got up and said that he doesn't like his enemies, and looked over at Erica and said, maybe you'll need to counsel me. He was joking. It was a light moment. And I've seen so many people like Christians, this is your leader. He has a great sense of humor, and he was trying to have a light moment there. So I wish people would just be kind.
They can't, though, can they? They can't help themselves. They have to find something that they can just scratch away at and niggle at. You know, they can't believe that ordinary, good, you know, God-fearing Americans can actually like Donald Trump and actually quite enjoy his, you know, sometimes slightly quirky sense of humour, sometimes slightly off, but he gets away with it because he's who he is.
I mean, they voted for him, so they know exactly what they're getting when he steps on a stage.
I know, exactly right. Listen, Kinsey, thank you so much for talking to us about that, and thank you for your insight, as ever, into the Royals. Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, there. Let's get a voice note, actually, from John on Erica Kirk.
Morning, Mike. John from West Yorkshire here. I just wanted to advise people, if they have time, or make time to listen to Erica Kirk's presentation at his memorial service. It was phenomenal, moving, and shows what a powerful, kind, generous woman she was, and perhaps something that we could all learn from, even in our day-to-day lives, let alone from the trauma that she's been through recently. It was a seminal moment, I think, and we should all listen to it. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
John, you're absolutely right, and we're going to play it now. I mean, she was obviously incredibly upset, but have a look at what she said.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
I mean, quite a remarkable evening as well, just the entire event, which Donald Trump was at, as I say, Elon Musk was there, J.D. Vance as well, 70,000 people in the football stadium, quite remarkable stuff. You wouldn't be at all surprised to see her emerging as some kind of political leader of some kind in the coming years, would you? I wouldn't be surprised. Coming next, we're going to talk about more net zero hypocrisy. So the boss of Britain's biggest energy provider is saying households are facing higher bills because of a racket involving wind farms. Well, wouldn't you be surprised to know that? This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:54. I'm Mike Graham. Can we assume, says Margaret in Cheshire, we will now be paying to rebuild the state of Palestine, accept millions of the people as refugees? Is this Starmer's plan? We need to get this useless, dangerous government out. And Howard says, you mentioned it was 8 degrees in London when you got up. Still 6 degrees here in rural Sussex at 7:30. Yeah, well, it's suddenly moved into sort of autumn overnight, hasn't it? Because it was like 25, 26 degrees on Friday when I was driving around. We're going to talk to Andrew Montford now, director of Net Zero Watch. There's a story in the Independent this weekend. The boss of Britain's biggest energy provider says households are facing higher bills because of a racket where wind farms are paid to stop producing power. There are 2,500 plus wind farms across the UK, many of them in Scotland, which are key to Labour's pledge to decarbonise the country's electricity by 2030. But Greg Jackson, the guy that runs Octopus Energy, you might have seen him on TV, he says insufficient infrastructure to carry electricity produced by wind farms is forcing them to shut down. So they put these wind farms up, but there's no actual, grid system, if you like, to move the electricity around, which is mad, isn't it? Andrew, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
I mean, I have to say, many people listening to this show and watching it will not be surprised to hear this, that it's all a bit of a racket. Tell us more.
So these so-called constraint payments are, they're at the front of public consciousness now, I think, because the story comes up quite often, and it does seem absolutely insane that we pay wind farms to switch off. But that is, if you like, an unavoidable result of the way we've gone about decarbonisation. We've just said to wind farm companies, build, 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 and so they've stuck them in the places that are windiest, which essentially means Scotland. Right. But of course, the problem with Scotland is that there's not very much grid capacity to get electricity from the north down to England, where the markets are. Right. Now, the costs, because there are so many more wind farms coming on stream, those costs are meant to explode in coming years. We reckon that by the time Ed Miliband's plans come to fruition, if they ever do, those costs will have gone up by a factor of about 7. They're going to go up 7-fold. I mean, this is absolute madness. And of course, if we build all those wind farms as well, we also have all the costs of the subsidies to pay, and your electricity bill is going to go through the roof. In reality, I don't think it's going to happen, Mike. I think what's actually going to happen is that, once bills have gone up for another year or so, where the public is going to start having a conversation about how we stop it. And essentially, the only way to stop it is, one, to stop building new wind farms and new solar farms, and then to actually start closing down the ones we have already. That is the only way we're going to get back to cheap electricity.
Well, I mean, the thing I don't understand is why is it, I'm looking at a little graph here in the Independent where it says the payments made for a wind turbine switching off, the difference between 2024 and 2025 is it seems to have almost doubled. Why has it gone up so much?
Okay, so there are actually 2 factors at play here. One is that there's not enough capacity in the wires to take the electricity to market, and as we get new wind farms brought onto the system, the costs go up because of that. There's also another effect that's starting to kick in, which is that when it's very windy and very sunny at the same time, the renewables fleet produces more electricity than the country needs. And so that's not allowed on an electricity grid. Supply and demand must always be equal. So we pay the wind farms or the solar farms to switch off for that reason too. Now, the problem with that second effect is that building new wires doesn't help you. There is no way of avoiding it. So we're starting to get an acceleration of these costs. And that's going to go on. That's why in 5 to 6 years' time, we're expecting there to be a 7-fold increase.
That's brilliant, isn't it? There's a great quote in here from the guy from Octopus Energy, Mr. Jackson, where he says basically it's like building a factory where there are no roads and then being paid for what you might have produced if there had been roads. I mean, it's a great racket, isn't it? Let's set up a business, don't do anything, get paid not to do anything, and then just go take your money all the way to the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the thing that people don't understand, I think, is that a lot of these wind farms can actually earn more to be switched off than they do to actually generate electricity. So there is actually an incentive for them to build in places where they're going to get switched off. They'll make more profits. So, this is absolute madness, as you say.
About, was it voodoo economics they used to talk about in Reagan's time? I mean, that really is voodoo economics. Start a business up, don't ever do anything, and just collect a subsidy from the government as if you were working. Amazing. Thank you very much indeed, Andrew Montford there. Coming up, loads more. This is Talk.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People smuggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... the smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, "I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source." Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work. You just can't say it.
It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, coming up to very nearly 3 minutes past 8. It is, of course, Monday, September the 22nd, and it's quite cold out there today, by the way. If you're out and about, haven't got out of the house yet, it's around about 8 degrees in London, and apparently still a bit colder than that, depending on which part of the world you are in. Has autumn once finally kicked in? It was very warm towards the end of last week. It's like 24, 25 degrees on Friday, down here in the south anyway. But it looks as though, certainly, the autumn is very much upon us, so we'll be talking about that as we go through the course of the show here with you until 10 o'clock, of course. Lots and lots of front pages this morning, very much focusing on Keir Starmer yesterday deciding to recognise Palestine without actually having a conversation about it in the general good, without having a conversation about it in Parliament, without offering it up as a subject of debate for parliamentarians, other MPs, without actually asking any of the people in this country if they want it. Judging by the reaction this morning from all of you, you're not particularly happy about Britain recognising Palestine. Let's get a voice note from Matt.
Morning, Mike. Matt in Hove here.
How is it possible that this two-tiered turnip can make himself look even more of an idiot with every week that goes by? It's almost unbelievable. He's now sort of making up names and places that exist that aren't there. I mean, oh yeah, I'd like to formally recognise my left eyebrow as a glass of Sauvignon Blanc. Thanks very much. I mean, it's just made up nonsense.
It really is bizarre, isn't it? Front page of the Telegraph. Hamas declares victory after Starmer recognises Palestine. The Daily Mail calls it Labour's Day of Shame. Hamas claims victory after Starmer hands out a prize for terrorism. And the same goes for the Times. Palestine recognition as a great prize for Hamas. The Prime Minister condemned by Israel and, of course, by the families of the hostages who still remain in waiting for their loved ones to come home, having been taken hostage on October the 7th, 2023. We're very nearly 2 years away from having those poor people tortured, starved, sexually assaulted, beaten up in tunnels below the streets of Gaza, and nothing that Keir Starmer did yesterday is going to make it any easier to get those people out, because Hamas now believes that they are actually enjoying the fruits of what they did on October the 7th, and that's why he has now come forward and recognised, along with Australia, along with Canada, along with France and a bunch of other stupid countries who seem to think that this will bring us somehow closer to some kind of two-state solution. Well, it won't, because there is nobody in the Middle East who wants a two-state solution, least of all Hamas and the Palestinians, who want to see Israel wiped off the face of the map. 0344 499 1000. David Lammy doesn't have a clue how it's going to work. I mean, of course he doesn't. He doesn't even understand how microwave ovens work. 0344 499 1000. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. Quite a few other extraordinary stories as well coming up today. We're going to be hearing why there's a plan to build a second runway at Gatwick. We'll find out why more and more delays at Heathrow are going on today after that cyber hack that happened at the weekend. We'll find out why a man called Jihadi Paul has got a luxury life in prison in this country. That's an exclusive in The Sun. And why cyclists are going to actually face penalties for running red lights. Not before time, you'd have to say. Now, let me take you back just before we speak to Baroness Claire Fox, the director of the Academy of Ideas, to Keir Starmer when he talks about what he was going to do as Prime Minister on the steps of Downing Street last year.
But whether you voted Labour or not, in fact, especially if you did not, I say to you directly, my government will serve you. Politics can be a force for good. We will show that. We've changed the Labour Party, returned it to service, and that is how we will govern. Country first, party second.
Yeah, he didn't say which country, did he? He obviously meant Palestine, which isn't a country, even though he wants to recognise it. Let's talk to Claire Fox, see what she makes of it all. Claire, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
I mean, weasel words, I'm afraid, you'd have to say about those, wouldn't you? He's going to do a government for all the people. They always say that when they get in, and as soon as they get in, they shut the door behind them and go, right, forget about that. Let's just do what we want.
Yeah, it's been a remarkable collapse of popularity of a government within 2 minutes of it getting in, and it's gone down since then. I mean,
seriously.
But they're actually unpopular in their own party.
Yeah.
That's the bit that's remarkable. I mean, there is real genuine tensions between all sides of the Labour Party, and as we know, even though we can joke about that's daft, your party and the Corbyn Sultana and so on, the fact that there were so many people wanting to join it who were Labour voters would indicate that they haven't managed to maintain the loyalty of their hardcore, let alone the country.
No, exactly right. And I mean, do you think, as most people do, that this manoeuvring about Palestine is an attempt to sort of heal that wound, particular wound anyway, because the left of the party will supposedly, presumably, think it's a good idea?
Actually, Mike, it's one of the most stupid as well as shameful things that this government has done.
Right.
The reason why it's stupid is because actually it doesn't satisfy that wing of the party, because most people acknowledge that's what they're trying to do, but most people acknowledge that it's an entirely performative gesture, because there is no Palestine to recognise. As everybody else has noted, so I'm not being original here, if 150 countries have already recognised Palestine and it's made not one iota of difference, then, you know, all it does is appease those people who can claim it as a victory, and that's Hamas. But I think there's a couple of other additional things to say. Once you recognise that Palestine is a state, then, by the way, Palestinians in that region can't then claim that they are refugees. But actually, the whole system of UNRWA is based on this idea that Palestinians are refugees and permanently, therefore, in need of UN aid, UN support. So it's kind of counterproductive in that way.
That's an
the
interesting
other thing, the other thing that's absolutely extraordinary about this is that everybody who's there talks. I mean, there's awful things happening in that war. I don't want to deny that. But this won't make one iota of difference to one Palestinian child or individual or so on. It strengthens Hamas's control over the region because they can claim this as a victory internally. So for the ordinary Palestinians, it doesn't do anything either. What good does it do? But guess what? One of the things that the activists are now saying is, in this country and domestically, is, oh, now that you've done that, that means that the British government should no longer work with anyone who's undermining the Palestinian state, and that the next campaign is that the UK government should have nothing to do with supplying any arms or any diplomatic relationships with Israel. They need to cut off because so it becomes just a step on yet another part of the campaign of delegitimizing Israel and treating Israel like it's the pariah state. I mean, it's awful. Stupid because it won't do anything, and it's actually dangerous because it's consolidated the power of those who can now claim it as a victory.
Yeah, well, I've seen interviews since yesterday with Palestinian leaders basically saying, you know, name me one country that recognised Palestine as a state before October the 7th. And now look at what's happened. And that's their logic. For them, that means October the 7th was a great success.
Yeah, and it's entirely legitimate for them to say that, isn't it? Which is, we put you under pressure. Hamas, you see, what the government try and do is say, oh, no, we don't like Hamas. We're the horrible organisation. I mean, you know, it's like a bit, you know, sort of it goes over the top of how horrible Hamas are. But the truth is that Hamas are absolutely within rights to say, we drew attention to the plight of the Palestinian people, and they've always treated the Palestinian people, by the way, as a kind of stage army of horror. You know, look how much we're suffering. That's one of the reasons why ordinary Palestinian homes have been used by Hamas soldiers. They've been a human shield. And that disgusting way that they treat ordinary Palestinians as part of their armory, a part of their terror campaign, has meant that they can then say, oh, look, we now represent you. We've got you a recognition of statehood from the UK that didn't do it beforehand. And why did that happen? Because we took action on October the 7th.
Incredible.
The most stupid rule, by the way, every terrorist organisation everywhere will say, oh, well, if we want a bit of international attention, what we need to do is to initiate a pogrom.
Yeah, just following the footsteps of Hamas. Well, have a look at, this is David Lammy, formerly the Foreign Secretary of this great country of ours, trying to explain to Trevor Phillips who's in charge.
You want to recognise an independent state, but you're telling that independent state who its leaders should be. I think we used to call that a colony.
No. One, let us not confuse the Palestinian people with Hamas.
No,
two, let us recognise...
The question is, who's in government? Are you saying that you will not recognise the Palestinian state if Hamas is part of government? Or are you saying it doesn't matter who's in government and you will recognise them come what may?
Trevor, your viewers know that we are some significant distance from two states.
Yeah, some significant distance from any kind of logical argument as well, because he doesn't obviously know the answers to that question, which is a very good question from Trevor Phillips. Are you recognising a state regardless of who's governing it? By the way, who is governing it? And if not, are you only recognising a state that you can suggest who the leaders are?
The other problem with it is that they haven't got any borders for this state. Nobody has said which part of territory is the Palestinian state. And these are disputed borders amongst Palestinians. Which is the actual entity of the Palestinian state? Now, because they were doing it as a kind of gesture and performative, as we say, for a domestic audience. They don't want people like Trevor Phillips or anyone else asking them difficult questions like, that state, where is it? Where is the exact borders of it? Who's in charge? And I thought that Trevor Phillips was very funny, but absolutely right, which is, if you actually say we recognise the Palestinian state because we are people who recognise self-determination of the Palestinian people, but by the way, as the UK state, we recognise your self-determination, but we are going to tell you who should run the state that we're recognising, then that's not self-determination for the Palestinian people.
Well, exactly right.
Although I don't want Hamas to be in charge of the Palestinian state that doesn't exist, there's anyway a dispute in Palestine because Hamas and the Palestinian Authority are at odds with each other. And the different parts of the geographical entity of the Palestinian state makes no sense because nobody's agreed them. But the final point is that we do know that when it comes to statehood in that region, there is a state, a recognized democratic state, as in Israel, and part of the people who run the Palestinian entity want to wipe Israel off the face of the planet, right? So the one thing that's happened is you've strengthened the forces of those people who will be able to carry on wanting to destroy the democratic state in the region that apparently are our allies. I mean, that's the other thing we've got to bear in mind. You can be as critical as you want about Israel, and many people are, but Israel is nonetheless a democratic, modern society that are allies of the UK unless the British government have decided otherwise. And I'm afraid they've set back that relationship by years. If they think they can influence Israel now, even less likely.
No chance. Absolutely right. Well, Lance Foreman sent this, and one of your former colleagues. David Lammy says we are a significant distance from two states. Yet yesterday he recognised Palestine as an independent state. If there were elections in the West Bank, Hamas would win, which is why the Palestinian Authority won't hold them. So how can he say Hamas will not rule? This is the thing, he's an idiot, says Lance, his final point, because looking at one of the graphics in the Mail today, the bitterness and division of the whole situation, it's got the West Bank divided into three areas following the Oslo Peace Accords in the 90s, administrative and security control divided unevenly between Israel and the Palestinian authorities. You've got Gaza, which is currently run by Hamas, and you've got East Jerusalem, regarded by Palestinians as their capital, has been entirely governed by Israel since 1967. So, there is, as you say, no state to recognise.
Exactly. When you were saying whether it appeases people at home, I think that's what we all feel most uncomfortable about.
Yes.
That we know that this is partially an attempt to say, oh God, during the last election, we lost an awful lot of votes to people who were Palestine sympathetic activists. 5 MPs, a significant number of votes were garnered by people who said that they were pro-Gaza. I mean, I'm very hesitant about this because I don't think that everybody who has been on the side of the Palestinian people have a leaning towards Islamism, but I think that a lot of those hardcore activists who've been demanding this do.
Yeah.
And the Labour leadership panics and thinks, we've got to be seen to be doing something to win over those people.
That's the point.
What an incredible, cowardly, craven act. And I still think, as I said, that they won't get a single vote out of it at home. Not that should be the reason why you would do it, but I actually think their day has gone for those people who are now looking round at the slightly peculiar Zach Polanski leadership of the Green Party and that kind of radicalism, or this alternative on the left party. So I don't think they're going to gain any votes out of it. They're attempting to keep that crowd happy, which they should never be, as a political leadership, prepared to do, to mess around with international politics just for the sake of trying to appease people at home. So it doesn't achieve even their own aims, it seems to me.
It really doesn't. And this from Mackenzie, who says, morning, Mike, what happens if Israel stops sharing terrorist intelligence? Has the government not endangered our population? Well, that's another aspect that we will never recover from, that Israel have already said, after David Lammy came out with this stupid plan to say that Netanyahu should be arrested if he comes to Britain, following that decision by the International Criminal Court. They've already stopped sharing information with us to some extent, and we've now put ourselves in a position where we are now viewed by Israel as a country not to be trusted.
I think it's so ironic because they've taken the focus away from the plight of ordinary people in the region, and unforgivably, they have genuinely, even though they say occasionally the words hostages, right? But they actually have taken the spotlight off the hostages. They have now created a situation where we're not allowed to discuss October the 7th without people going, yeah, October the 7th, no, right? And all this sort of thing. People have got to understand what I think many of your viewers and listeners do, that the significance of October the 7th was not even the absolute brutality of the moment, but that it signified an attempt by a rogue Islamist organization, a brutal anti-Jewish organization, to say we will go to any ends to destroy Israel.
Yeah.
And then to play the international card of trying to gain support. Because Israel has hit back brutally, I concede, and because of the unresolved tensions in that region at the moment and the horrors that we've seen in relation to the war, because of that, you now can't even mention the pogrom on October the 7th without people going, yeah, moving on, stop going on. But that's at the heart of it. And those hostages being still held are still very much something that the British government should focus on. But it doesn't want to. It's trying to garner, I mean, what is it? Brownie points from other international countries, wants to go down well in the UN and wants to get the support of these people in this country who go on those marches. And it's failed to do any of those things.
It's shocking, absolutely awful. Great to talk to you, though, Baroness Claire Fox. We should give your Battle of Ideas a bit of a plug before we leave, because myself and Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan are turning up to do a podcast. Tell us about it.
Yes, 18th and 19th of October, and God knows there's plenty to talk about, but we've got over 100 panels, and I think there's 400 speakers, and thousands of people will come. And the theme is, having conversations with the public, in public, right, about public affairs, and no holds barred discussions. The fact that we've invited you and Kevin to do your podcast live would indicate that, we're prepared to do anything. We're delighted to have you back. But actually, of all ages, of all politics, I actually feel that the problem with politics at the moment is that ordinary people are excluded from the conversation, apart from on shows like this. But the Battle of Ideas is where it happens live. So 18th and 19th of October, Battle of Ideas, come along.
Brilliant stuff. We'll see you there. Baroness Claire Fox, thank you very much indeed. Director of the Academy of Ideas, the Battle of Ideas. It's a great event. It's fantastic. It goes on all weekend. Apart from anything else, you meet a lot of really interesting people there. And as I say, myself and Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan will be there with the Thought Police. Let's get a voice note from Lynn.
Morning, Mike. Lynn from Brighton here. I watched just on Charlie Kirk's funeral, memorial. Very, very moving. His wife, so brave, and I agree with Trump. I don't like the enemy either. While that memorial was going on, the left was still celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. It's just unbelievable. The left they are the enemy, and I don't like them.
Yeah, well, you and Donald Trump. Let's have a look at what he said.
He was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great, great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent. And I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. Charlie's angry. Look at that. He's angry at me now.
He's such an incredibly charismatic character, isn't he? Whether you like him or not, and I do like him, I think you can't get away from how brilliant he is at performing. Mike says this in Cheshire, now that the second runaway at Gatwick has been announced, to mitigate the increase in emissions of CO2, will we be required to stop driving and using any form of heating on our homes? Well, I wouldn't be surprised. You'll have to stop driving and using any form of heating in your homes because you just won't be able to afford to. Christmas is coming, the autumn is upon us, and you're going to start thinking about putting your heating on, but I guess you're going to be looking at the bill, and you're going to be wondering how much is it going to cost me this year, Because it's absolutely unbelievable. This weekend, by the way, old Sadiq Khan decided to shut down Oxford Street to traffic to see if it was, you know, an even better and more incredible place. Well, it wasn't really, because at the end of the day, there's not much traffic on Oxford Street anyway these days. Only buses and taxis are allowed. So actually, I go there on quite a regular basis. There's hardly any traffic there anyway. But if he thinks, you know, improving London is locking cars out of it, I'm afraid he's got another thing coming. Apart from anything else, imagine how much money he collects on the congestion charge and on ULEZ and all the rest of it. They can't live without cars. They just want you to pay to drive them. 0344 499 1000. Coming up, David Wooding is here. He's got a big piece in the Sun about Andy Burnham. Is he going to be the next Labour leader? Find out next.
The Muslim leaders in this country, those who are spreading and proselytizing the Muslim faith, believe they don't really need terrorism anymore to get their message across. They are doing it through the ballot box and the womb.
Exactly.
And that is an expression that was accepted by a leading member of the Muslim member of the House of Lords. And this is the problem we face. While we sit there like frogs in a saucepan, the water's boiling. In fact, I think we're already hard-boiled.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 27 minutes past 8. I'm Mike Graham with you, of course, all the way through until 10 o'clock. We're going to talk to David Wooding shortly, and Melanie Phillips joins us as well, columnist for The Times in a little while. Let's get a voice note from Sharon on Palestine.
On a morning, I just sometimes wake up and think, what's happening? And then something else comes up on. This to do with Keir Starmer. It's not right. Everything he's doing is against the people of this country. Signing us up for things that we've not even said that we need, that we want them. We're having no option. He's not even going to Parliament and sorting things out. Surely it's got to stop. This is not right. It's not right in any way. I just can't understand why we're going down this route and why we're letting him there's got to be a stop somewhere that if he's going to kill the country and do this damage to the country, there's got to be a way of stopping it, surely.
You'd like to think so, Sharon. Thank you very much indeed. Let's talk to David Wooding, journalist, political commentator, columnist in The Sun this morning, about Andy Burnham. They got a great cartoon of him being done up as one of the members of Oasis, because he's obviously had to make that kind of switch from Everton fan into Mancunian. David, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Good to see you. Great column. Fantastic stuff. I mean, you say definitely maybe at the end of it. Is he going to make his move? A lot of people think he's preparing himself to do so, to take over from Starmer, who still, let's not forget, despite Donald Trump's visit, despite this big news on Palestine, he's still in a pretty poor position, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the lowest ranking politician in the polls at the moment, is Keir Starmer. Yeah. And that's why it's a good time for Andy Burnham to strike. I mean, the person who was being touted as the next leader was Angela Rayner. She's been removed from the picture. People are rallying behind Andy Burnham and saying they want him. His popularity is high. And so all eyes will be on him at the Labour conference, which kicks off next week. So what I was doing in this article, Mike, was to explore what Andy Burnham stands for and whether he would make a good leader and what people think about him.
Yeah. Well, I like the joke that you told as well, which is a Blairite, a Brownite and a Corbynista walk into a pub and landlord says, "Good evening, Mr Burnham," because he's got a pretty checkered past, hasn't he? He's sort of been in every single part of the Labour Party. You're old enough to remember him when he was in Gordon Brown's sort of government. What is he? What does he stand for?
Well, that's it. You see, he presents himself as a northerner, saying he likes beer and chips and crisps and gravy, and he's an Everton fan. He comes from Liverpool. I'm northern. I'm not like the rest of you. But in fact, he's made his career in the south as a press officer for a union, then a special advisor for Tessa Jowell, and then became an MP. So he is in the Westminster bubble, or was in the Westminster bubble for a long time.
Yeah.
The Westminster bubble, which he derides so much. Since he's gone to Manchester, he's now the Northern champion, King of the North, as they call him.
Yeah.
And the question is, can he become King of the rest of the United Kingdom? Because that appeal, while it works in Manchester, it's a great effect, and they love him up there. They do, and he's doing a good job, in fairness.
Well, some of them do, but I mean, I have to say, I was just there at the weekend, and there was a bus strike on, which was causing absolute havoc, and you couldn't get anywhere. The traffic was worse than it was in London, and unfortunately, a poor 15-year-old boy was stabbed to death in Moss Side just a few days ago. So he's got a problem with crime, he's got a problem with transport, not dissimilar to Sadiq Khan, you might say.
Yes, yeah. And the other thing, like you were talking about the joke, the checkered past. He was when he was first an MP, he was an uber Blairite. He was known when he was in the Home Office as a junior minister as hang 'em, flog 'em, burn 'em,
right.
Because it was quite hard line. Then he sort of got behind Gordon Brown, and then he had no compunction about backing Ed Miliband and even left Jeremy Corbyn and served in their cabinets. And the question is, where will he be if he stands for leader? Because the Labour Party, the membership, all the polls show it's to the left. Number one in their poll is Red Ed Miliband.
Yeah.
And a very popular MP among the public generally, Wes Streeting, is only 17th. So in order to get elected, he's going to have to swerve back even further to the left. So it'd be interesting to see what he stands for and how he pitches his leadership campaign.
Indeed. And just how rough is it going to be for Starmer at this Labour Party conference? Because, as you say, he's assailed kind of from all sides at the moment, really, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he's got to deliver the speech of his life. It will have to be a barnstormer of a speech. And we thought that, he'd have to appeal to the people outside, you and me and your viewers, to the people who are disenchanted with him, who are moving to reform. But he's equally got to appeal to the people inside the hall, the Labour MPs, the Labour activists who want him out. So he's got a difficult balancing act to do between appealing to so many people. And at the same time, we've got this deputy leadership fight on between a member of his cabinet, Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, and Lucy Powell, who is sacked, who is seen as a proxy for Andy Burnham. If Lucy Powell wins, it will strengthen Burnham's hand. So that's all going on. And Burnham himself will make an appearance as the Fringe, making various speeches and interventions. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. A word on Ed Davey. You make some rather amusing comments about him in the column this morning, saying that, he's not really particularly relevant at the moment. But is anybody paying any attention to him?
No, all we saw was him arriving with banging a drum with a marching band.
Right.
I did try and think what sort of policies the Lib Dems would come up with that Ed Davey could possibly think of, and the ones that struck my mind was cutting VAT on trampolines and free water slides for pensioners, and all sorts of silly things like that.
Yeah. Should you have a look at some quick fire questions he was answering yesterday? Check this out.
Sarah Davey, quick fire round here. Coffee or tea?
Tea in the mornings, coffee in the afternoons.
Dogs or cats?
Cats and dogs, I love them both.
Fish and chips or pizza?
Fish and chips.
Jet skiing or hobby horse jumping?
Jet skis.
What do you usually grab for lunch?
Normally it's a bit of soup and maybe salmi.
Favourite novel?
I've just read There Are Rivers in the Sky, which is fantastic.
Favourite song?
Of course, it's Sweet Caroline.
Trump or Musk?
Neither.
Any phobias?
Don't like Donald Trump, don't like Elon Musk.
It's amazing he's got so many MPs that never seems to make any noise about anything.
No, I mean, they did have a bit of a comeback at the last election.
Yeah.
They got some more seats, but they're not really making any cut through, are they? A lot of people don't know what they stand for, and they've become a bit of a protest party. People who say, I'm sick of a lot of them, but don't really want reform, will go to the Lib Dems. I mean, it's like the people who vote Green because they want the environment to be safe, but don't look at the Greens' policies and realise how hard left they are.
Right. No, I know. It's all very bizarre. Anyway, busy time for you. Great column. Thank you very much indeed. David Wooding this morning on page 10 of The Sun. Go and check it out right now. Let's go and find out what The Sun says on its letters page.
Letters from The Sun, the page where you tell Britain what to think. For more, visit thesun.co.uk.
There's a lot about reform in The Sun today. This from George in Essex, in Romford. He says, the more I see of this government, the more reform seems a viable object. 1,000 plus illegal migrants arriving in small boats on Friday, and just 3 deported since the UK's one-in, one-out scheme started. The gangs Sir Keir Starmer said he would smash must be shaking in their boots. Labour are living in a parallel universe and taking the voters of this country for fools. Chris in North Yorkshire says, more than 1,000 migrants crossed the Channel in small boats on Friday. So just what are the French police doing to stop them with the hundreds of millions we pay France? Whatever it is, it doesn't seem like a great deal for the UK. It's time Labour got to grips with the situation, but don't believe Reform leader Nigel Farage will fix things. He's a blustering bluffer, says Chris. And here's one from Clive, who says, with more than 1,000 migrants crossing the Channel on Friday, it's obvious that the one-in, one-out deal with France isn't a deterrent. We now must withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights. Well, Nigel Farage is the only person saying that. You certainly won't get that out of the Labour Party, that's for sure. It's 8:36. Coming next, we're going to speak more about what's happening with this recognition of Palestine. Melanie Phillips joins us from The Times.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 8:39. I'm Mike Graham. This one for all sorts of people from Ray in Liverpool. Morning, Mike. The lunatics really have taken over the asylum. What the hell is Starmer doing rewarding terrorists? Has he forgotten what happened on October the 7th? Has he forgotten the scenes of Palestinians celebrating in the streets when the Twin Towers were attacked on 9/11? Starmer and his loony left party are a disgrace and an embarrassment. I haven't found anyone this morning who thinks it was a good idea to recognise Palestine. Let's get a voice note from Elle on migrant hotels.
Morning, Mike. Love your show. Listen every single day. Regards immigration, I live in Milton Keynes and we had a beautiful Grade 2 listed building that my friends got married at. I couldn't stay there because I couldn't afford it. But that's a migrant hotel. And then further down the other way, we've got some of them being put up in a hotel that's right by a primary school, and they've been told off for taking videos of the little children. So that's not very good either. People have just got to realise these people, when they live amongst you, you won't want them.
Yeah, interesting point. Good to talk to you, Elle. Thanks for that. You can send in your own voice note, of course, 0344 499 1000. Let's talk to Melanie Phillips, columnist at The Times. She wrote yesterday, where is this Palestinian state? Starmer can't say. Where are its borders? He can't say. Does it include the West Bank, the disputed territories of Judea and Samaria? He can't say. Does it include the hundreds of thousands of Jewish inhabitants of those territories? He can't say. Who's the leader of its government? He can't say. Melanie, very good morning to you.
Morning.
I watched David Lammy on Sky yesterday with Trevor Phillips. You probably saw it, where he was asked, isn't it a bit like a colony if you decide to recognise a state for which you only can suggest a government of one kind or another? He couldn't answer the question, are you only recognising it if it's got a government you like, or are you recognising it despite whatever government it's got?
Yeah, well, the whole thing is completely nonsensical. This state doesn't exist just because a number of countries, including apparently the United Kingdom government, wants it to exist, doesn't mean it becomes in existence. Certain conditions have to be met in terms of international law. They have not been met. Anybody with half a brain can see this thing doesn't exist. And the hapless Lammy, to whom you've just referred, on that very interview with Trevor Phillips, made a complete idiot of himself because he actually admitted that just recognising a state of Palestine, he said, of course it doesn't bring it into existence. Well, if it's not in existence, then what are they recognising?
Well, there's no logic, is there?
No, they're recognising an idea, they're recognising a wish. I mean, the whole thing is would be farcical, would be comical, were it not so serious. It is, as your viewers have just said, a reward for terrorism.
Yes.
Hamas has actually said, thank you. It has said, this is the fruits of October 7. Can you believe this? That Britain's Labour government under Sir Keir Starmer has delivered to Hamas a reward for the most barbaric and biggest single atrocity against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. What an appalling disgrace for a British Prime Minister.
Yeah. And what I've been saying this morning as well, it doesn't appear to have been any kind of public conversation about it. There's been no debate in Parliament, as far as I'm aware. I haven't really even read a piece written by a cabinet minister in defence of this particular position. There's been no intellectual conversation about it whatsoever.
Well, no, I think we can all see broadly what's happened. You know, Sir Keir Starmer under enormous pressure from the Gaza first tendency, which is growing, unfortunately. I mean, as if Gaza has anything to do with the interests of the British people, of whom he is the Prime Minister. But anyway, there's an enormous pressure on him personally from his hard left, who would depose him in a heartbeat over this. There's enormous pressure from the rising Muslim bloc, the rising power of the Muslim bloc, both inside the Labour Party and in the country. So those two things have been great pressure on him that has been building for some time. And I think that what possibly has spooked him completely into this precipitate action was Emmanuel Macron, the French president, saying that he was going to do this. And I think that probably Sir Keir Starmer thought, well, I'm going to be left, looking even more weak or I'm going to be in an even weaker position in terms of these people who want my head. if I don't go along with this. Plus, I'm afraid to say, I think that Starmer himself, he's obsessed by what he calls the two-state solution, which involves a state of Palestine being created. And he believes that Israel is dragging its feet over this. Well, of course, Israel's dragging its feet over this. There cannot be a state of Palestine because the only purpose of such a state, as the Palestinian leadership has said time and again, often in Arabic, but it is said time and again, the only purpose is a stage. It's part of what they call a strategy of stages to destroy Israel. I mean, I'm speaking to you from Jerusalem, just sort of down the road, sort of between you and sort of Kilburn, as it were, or, Primrose Hill, is the area which would be designated as part of Palestine, from which it is eminently possible to fire missiles straight at the Israeli capital, straight at Ben Gurion Airport, straight at most of Israel. Indeed, a missile attack was thwarted from those areas in the last few days. A missile attack. Can you imagine a missile being fired at you where you're sitting from, say, Primrose Hill? Yeah. That's what's being faced here now. That's what Keir Starmer wants to bring into existence permanently. What is the man thinking of? Right. He is either delusional or he's evil.
Right. And certainly it would appear that he doesn't understand the region either, because there's nobody in Palestine who wants a two-state solution. As you say, they're not interested in a two-state solution. So these kind of, do-gooders in the West who say, oh, the two-state solution must be the way forward. Well, nobody wants it.
No, the only people who want it are the people who want Israel gone. And it's being used, this whole thing of Palestine recognition, which is now running across the world in country after country, has been, is part of a really wildly successful campaign of demonization and delegitimization of Israel going on for many years now, spearheaded by the Palestinian Authority, probably backed by other countries such as, for example, Iran, which has the same kind of aim in mind. But certainly the Palestinian Authority has been going on about this, this tack for a very long time. In other words, the Palestinian Authority long ago decided that it could not defeat Israel by conventional military means, and it probably couldn't defeat it by terrorism, although it's having a good go at it the whole time. And every day there are attacks and thwarted attacks going on. So the Palestinian Authority decided that it could achieve its ends through the diplomatic route. It understood that there was a weakness in the West. They hate Israel. They don't like the Jews, and it could play on that. And it could play on international law, which is regarded in the West as a kind of religion. Sir Keir Starmer is, above all, a human rights lawyer. And the Palestinian Authority understood that they could deploy this. They could deploy it through the UN, which is run by or answerable to countries which want Israel gone. And through the UN, which purports to be, the global arbiter of peace and justice, for goodness sake, it's the opposite. It is institutionally programmed to Israel's destruction. And through its satellite agencies, its courts, its whole humanitarian apparatus, the Palestinian Authority has been using that. And recognition of Palestine is a kind of super mega stunt in order to plant in people's minds the idea that there is a state of Palestine, there should be a state of Palestine, and that the only people who are stopping this worthy endeavor is the state of Israel. But the state of Palestine has one purpose only, genocidal, to destroy Israel, to exterminate Jews. And that is what Sir Keir Starmer has now put Britain's shoulder behind. And I'm not surprised that the majority of British people, according to a recent opinion poll, it said 90% of the British people think this is the wrong move at this time to recognise a state of Palestine without conditions, leaving Hamas in power in Gaza without a single hostage being returned, removing any leverage there is over Hamas to end the war, to get rid of all its weapons, to disarm, and to remove and to restore the hostages to Israel. It's removed that leverage, so it's not surprising that the British people, who understand humbug when they see it and have a moral sense, are disgusted by this. And that's what Sir Keir Starmer has done. I don't think, if he thinks he's bought himself out of a problem, I think he's actually going to find that he's managed to secure a much bigger problem for himself.
Yes, I think so. Melanie, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Melanie Phillips there, talking to us from Jerusalem, columnist for The Times, of course. Let's get a voice note from Dan.
Good morning, Mike. It's Dan from Kent. What Starmer has done to recognise Palestine as a state is cowardice, it's disgusting. To do it in a time when Parliament's in recess, so he knows he can't be held accountable. Can you imagine being a hostage at the moment in Gaza and the captors taunting you with the fact that 3 of the Western countries, Australia, Canada, Britain, have now recognised and rewarded Hamas for the terrorist attacks on October the 7th? It's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, Dan, you speak for an awful lot of people, and I think that's generally the view of certainly the viewers and the listeners to this show this morning. I suspect it will be the same throughout the course of the day. Coming up, we're going to talk about prison justice with Reform's Justice Advisor Vanessa Frake. We'll find out what's been going on in the world of football. Let's talk.
The Muslim leaders in this country, those who are spreading and proselytizing the Muslim faith, believe they don't really need terrorism anymore to get their message across. They are doing it through the ballot box and the womb.
Exactly.
And that is the expression that was accepted by a leading Muslim member of the House of Lords. And this is the problem we face. While we sit there like frogs in a saucepan, the water's boiling. In fact, I think we're already hard-boiled.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 8:53. This from Martin in Bristol. So, Palestine is now a recognised state. What next? An invitation to join the Eurovision Song Contest? Counting the days until a quartet of men singing Save All Your Fatwas for Me. I wish I was joking. I mean, you know, you can say that. The Eurovision Song Contest, apparently, is being threatened by all sorts of countries who say, you know, if you don't ban Israel from it, we're not going to take part. We're going to boycott it. You know, the world's gone completely bonkers mad. Let's have a look at this, though. 90 minutes in 90 seconds.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
Time to look at some of the football from the weekend. We're joined by Jordan Davis, senior sports journalist and football reporter at The Sun. Jordan, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Mikel Arteta and Arsenal, he says he got the team selection wrong.
Yeah, it's become a regular theme of Arsenal at the moment. Another big game, another criticism of the Arsenal boss Arteta for being too cautious, for having the handbrake left on during these big games. I spoke to him in the press conference after the game, the 1-1 draw where they got a late goal to rescue a point, and I asked him about his team selection and he refused to go in on it, saying it would take too long to go through it, but insisting that he chose the best team. But that clearly isn't the case, and his critics still now claim that he's still too cautious to really go and win a league title and picking a team not to lose rather than going out to win.
Yeah, and he's kind of saying it's already a bit late to catch Liverpool. You know, it may be a clear statement of intent, but it's a bit early, isn't it, to be saying we can't catch a team that, you know, have only just started playing in the Championship.
It is very early, but also Liverpool, 5 games, 5 wins. They haven't been playing very well and they're still winning. Arsenal haven't been at their best and they've lost 1 game and drawn 1 game and won 3. So it is quite ominous, especially how Liverpool ran away with it last season. So I'm not surprised that he's a bit concerned that already they're going to struggle to catch them.
What about Luke Shaw? What's he saying?
Well, the after the Man United derby loss to Man City last weekend, there's still some criticism flying about, especially for the England fullback Luke Shaw. Roy Keane, Man United legend, claimed that he's been stealing a living for years, a really, really big claim. And Luke Shaw, strangely actually, has actually spoken out and said that, yeah, I think he was right. He knows he wasn't at his level and he doesn't need someone like Roy Keane telling him that. But again, it's quite strange that a Man United player would come out and say, yep, he's right.
I agree. Yeah, that's amazing. Unai Emery's called his players lazy. He's doing a bit of the Roy Keane there, isn't he?
He's again, it's very unlike Unai Emery, and you know, Villa really struggling this year, 18th after 5 games with just 1 goal scored, and they conceded a late goal against the 10 men of Sunderland to then draw the game. And yeah, Emery said the players are lazy, they're not doing enough to go and get the wins, and it's really worrying for Villa, especially after the summer they've had and restricted by financial regulations, and it's really hard to see them really picking up any sort of speed in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff, Jordan. Thanks very much indeed. Jordan Davis there. That was 90 minutes in 90 seconds.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
Andy in Cheshire says, I'm hearing that there's an emergency cabinet meeting today, following which Keir Starmer will announce that Hogwarts will be given university status. Great show again. Yeah, thanks very much indeed. Let's talk to Vanessa Frake, Reform UK's Justice Advisor, former prison governor, of course. We're going to see that apparently thousands of prison officers will get stab-proof vests, not before time, and also some tasers I think they're going to be getting as well. Vanessa, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
I remember speaking to you about this a few months ago, probably, in which it was said that in some of these, particularly these high-security prisons, where I think that the Manchester bomber threw some boiling water over some people, that a lot of prison officers don't have or didn't have stab vests because they didn't want to look as if they were confrontational. But hopefully somebody's seen the sense of that now being stupid, so they've gone the other way.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a long time coming. But unfortunately, you know, stab vests aren't going to stop the hot oil. They're not going to stop the sugar and boiling water mix. They're not going to stop the PTSD. They're not going to solve the average assaults, but they'll certainly help, certainly in the high security estate. But, you know, there's 25,000 prison officers and 10,000 are going to get these. So, you know, it's a start, I suppose. And anything that we can do to protect prison staff is a bonus. But don't forget, you know, there's civilian instructors who have tools and knives out with prisoners. There's civilian caterers, again, with knives. These aren't getting stab vests. So what's going to protect them?
No, indeed. And what about the tasers? How many of those are we getting?
Well, it's the tornado teams, the specialist teams will get them, and they reckon maybe 1 or 2 per prison, but certainly not every single officer manned with a taser walking down a landing, thank God.
No, it's probably not the greatest idea anybody's ever had. And what news from the new Justice Minister? Because, of course, he used to be in charge of Foreign Affairs. He's been out David Lammy going into prisons. I dread to think what he's going to come up with.
Well, I'm holding my breath. You know, this is yet another Justice Minister. We just got used to Shabina Mahmood, and now we're having to get used to David Lammy. And if his performance on Mastermind is anything to go by, God help the prison service. That's all I've got to say.
I think that's right. Vanessa, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Vanessa Frake there, Reform UK's Justice Advisor, a former prison governor. You can only imagine what kind of ideas he's going to come up with. One here from Sally in Devon. By Starmer's logic with Palestine, you might as well say Putin should be entitled to keep Ukraine. He's a moron. Prime Minister, not in my name. And Terry in Birmingham says, morning, Mike, Palestine, why don't we just mind our own business? The USA is bankrolling Israel. Let them sort it out. Coming up in the next hour, Nigel Evans is here. We'll get his view on Palestine. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, coming up to very nearly 3 minutes past 9. It is Monday, of course, September the 22nd. We are into the autumn, ladies and gentlemen, because you woke up this morning in some parts of the country. It's as little as 4 degrees, I'm told. In London, it was about 8 when I got up this morning, around about 4:30, and it was dark, and it was pretty gloomy. But there's plenty more to look forward to, you have to say. Lib Dem conference is going on, and you've got Labour Party conference coming up, which, of course, Keir Starmer is desperately trying to make into a fan show for himself and his current hapless colleagues running the cabinet. David Lammy, former Foreign Secretary, was speaking at the weekend about this recognition of Palestine. Couldn't explain it, couldn't get his head around it, couldn't get the logic of it, couldn't tell Trevor Phillips even which particular state of Palestine we are supposedly recognising, because you recognise Palestine at your peril, because how can you recognise a state that doesn't exist? And that's certainly what many of you have been saying. Lots of our guests this morning have been saying the same thing. Melanie Phillips was saying it. We're going to be speaking to Nigel Evans coming up, former Commons Deputy Speaker, of course, a man who knows a thing or two about proper conservatism. He was obviously, a Conservative MP when the Conservatives were an actual Conservative party. This morning there's a lot of talk in the papers about Kemi Baden not cutting through and not actually getting her views across, and wondering whether she's going to be too long for this world if she can't sort of maintain at least a voice that people want to listen to in this country. Front page is all very much concerned with this recognition of Palestine. Hamas claims victory after Starmer hands out a prize for terrorism, says the Daily Mail, calling it Labour's Day of Shame. The Times says Palestine recognition is a great prize for Hamas. And also, you've got Hamas declaring victory after Starmer recognises Palestine. Elsewhere in the papers, the front page of the Daily Telegraph has got Nigel Farage vowing to kick out hundreds of thousands of people who have come to this country as part of what he's calling the Boris wave. 3.8 million people moved to the UK after Brexit, after Boris Johnson relaxed the rules on immigration. Many of them came completely and utterly legally. Some of them came on visas to work, some of them came on visas to study, but most of them are still here, and some of them have been given indefinite right to remain. What Farage and Reform say is that they will take those numbers and they will re-examine them, and they will ask them to justify why they're here. They'll have to make at least £35,000 a year, and they'll have to be able to speak pretty good English. Otherwise, they might be on their way out. Gatwick Airport's going to get 100,000 extra flights a year and the new second runway. Good luck with that, because they struggle, as far as I can tell, to handle the flights that they've got at the moment. Meanwhile, Heathrow's still suffering after that cyber attack at the weekend. We'll talk to Lisa Minnow from The Sun a little bit later on. The Sun front page has got an elite soldier shot 7 times in a live ammo mix-up, suffering PTSD and now suffering life-changing injuries. Lots more of you want to get in touch, of course, as well. 0344 499 1000. We'll talk about how cyclists are going to be given a hard time for going through red lights, and we'll find out why there's a guy called Jihadi Paul living a luxury life in prison. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. Now, let's remind ourselves of what Keir Starmer said the day that he was elected back in July of last year, standing on the steps of Downing Street, vowing to make it all so different.
But whether you voted Labour or not, in fact, especially if you did not, I say to you directly, my government will serve you. Politics can be a force for good. We will show that. We've changed the Labour Party, returned it to service, and that is how we will govern. Country first, party second.
He didn't say which country, though, did he? And it turns out he meant Palestine, because here's what he's saying today.
In the face of the growing horror in the Middle East, we are acting to keep alive the possibility of peace and a two-state solution. That means a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable Palestinian state. At the moment, we have neither. So today, to revive the hope of peace and a two-state solution, I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the state of Palestine.
Well, let's talk to Nigel Evans now. Nigel, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm very well indeed, but I've not yet met anyone this morning who can define what Palestine is as a state, because it doesn't apparently have any borders, it doesn't apparently have any government as such. David Lammy can't explain it. Why has he done it?
Well, I assume it's to throw some red meat towards some of the Labour backbenchers who are scratching their heads wondering how much longer Keir Starmer is going to be in number 10.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's all about. It's all veneer. In practical terms, Mike, it means absolutely nothing. Right. Hamas will bank it as a coup. It was not used even as leverage to release all the rest of the hostages that still remain within under the control of Hamas. And so, quite frankly, it seems to me as if a number of countries have colluded on this too, because it's not just Britain, there's a few others like Australia and Canada, Portugal, and France, of course, that are all recognizing Palestine at the same time. But as you quite rightly say, what are they really recognizing? And is it going to make any practical difference? The answer is no. Is the war going to carry on? The answer is yes. Are the hostages still going to remain? The answer is yes. Will they then be recognized within the United Nations? The answer is no, because the United States will block it. I mean, it is absolutely nothing other than veneer.
Yes, exactly right. But there is some damage that will happen long term, and of course that will be to our diplomatic relations with Israel and to our general relations with them as an ally in the Middle East.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to feel somewhat isolated, I suspect, Israel increasingly. And it just seems bonkers, doesn't it? Because it seems as if we've forgotten about the attack on the 7th of October 2023, which resulted in so many deaths of innocent Israeli people. We seem to have forgotten all of that. We've forgotten all about the hostages that are still there. And some of those, of course, were murdered. And yet we are turning all our firepower on Israel, who are only defending themselves. Listen, I'm not saying, Mike, that more should not be done to ensure that humanitarian aid is getting through to the people who desperately need it. But at the same time, we've still got Hamas, who seem to be in control of this other state that we are now recognizing since yesterday. I mean, what are we going to do about Hamas? And it seems as if we've got no answer to that whatsoever. They're just going to bank this recognition and nothing else is going to change.
Well, as you say, the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? Because nothing's actually changed since yesterday, since we've decided to suddenly recognise Palestine. It's not as if they're any nearer to a solution. And by the way, an awful lot of the aid that hasn't gone into Gaza because Hamas have stopped it from going into Gaza. You know, it's Hamas who have got all the answers. As the Israelis always say, you know, all that we need for this war to end is for Hamas to lay down their arms, give up and hand over the hostages. But they ain't doing that, are they?
No, they're not doing it, and Hamas are going to remain, whatever bit of Palestine we recognise as Palestine, Hamas are going to be in control. And don't forget, these are the people who are actually meting out appalling tortures on people Arabs who are living within that territory. I don't think that they are the answer to anything. Hamas are the problem, and by recognising Palestine, Hamas is being semi-recognised as well, Mike, because they're the ones that are in control.
Well, as I'm about to play you a clip from David Lammy, this is Trevor Phillips really pinning him out and asking him to explain precisely what it is that they are recognising. Have a look.
You want to recognise an independent state, but you're telling that independent state who its leaders should be. I think we used to call that a colony.
No. One, let us not confuse the Palestinian people with Hamas.
No,
two, let us recognise...
The question is, who's in government? Are you saying that you will not recognise the Palestinian state if Hamas is part of government? Or are you saying it doesn't matter who's in government? And you will recognise them come what may?
Trevor, your viewers know that we are some significant distance from two states.
In which case, what are they recognising then?
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Phillips is wonderful, isn't he? I mean, he was just asking normal questions. And you had the former Foreign Secretary not having the faintest idea how to respond. I mean, the reality is that, as Trevor pointed out, Hamas are in charge, they're in control. And in essence, many people could misinterpret the decision yesterday for recognising Hamas because they are in control of the territory that we've just given recognition for. It's absolutely bonkers. But never mind, Mike, they'll all be in New York patting themselves on the back at the United Nations. You know, showing how they're all working together, trying to bring peace when not a single life will be saved. If anything, it's probably going to make it worse because it will embolden Hamas to carry on.
I don't think there's any danger of that at all. I mean, and the problem is that it's not just in Israel where there's a problem. It's not just in Palestine. Looking at the front page of the Express today, I don't know if you've seen this, Nigel, but this is also the reaction in the Middle East to what's been going on. ISIS could be reborn in 24 hours, with thousands of extremists flooding into the West. Prison camps holding them in Syria are on the verge of violent uprisings, which may see fanatics freed to resume their reign of terror. And we know, for example, Shamima Begum is still in one of these camps. The camps are literally hotbeds of terrorists. Some British people are still in there. You know, it's a whole powder keg, isn't it?
Yeah, and the reality is they haven't got the solution to it whatsoever. I mean, fascinating to see what the outcome is from the United Nations meeting that is taking place in New York, what solutions they're going to come up with. But what I do know is that what Britain and France and several other countries have decided to do is going to give succor to a terrorist organization which committed atrocities on the 7th of October. And quite frankly, as you just said, it now will give succor to some other terrorist organizations that we thought had gone, that had thought had disappeared. And then all of a sudden they can see that if you perpetrate atrocities and you press hard enough, eventually you will get recognition by countries like the United Kingdom. I mean, do you know, when Keir talked about this great country of ours, Mike, I thought, yeah, once great country of ours, because quite frankly, I'm ashamed.
Well, they're doing an awful lot to denude it and to make our reputation abroad much, much worse than it used to be. And so many things are going wrong on so many different fronts. I mean, you know, because Keir Starmer had that visit from Donald Trump last week, there was a little bit of kind of focus taken away, if you like, from the dreadful economic policies that have been pushed through by this government. We're now being told that we're going to get a 5-year high for unemployment figures coming very shortly. But similarly, on immigration, you know, this one-in, one-out nonsense where they've sent 3 people home, apparently, to France, or they've sent 3 people to France. Over 1,000 people alone came in on Friday.
Yeah, well, it's several thousand in and 3 out. And they're facing the same problem that Rishi Sunak faced. Rishi just gave up in the face of all of that, sadly, and threw in the towel. I don't think even Keir has picked up the towel, paying hundreds of millions to France. They're not doing anything to stop the illegals getting into small boats and coming across. We need fresh legislation. We need to leave the European Convention of Human Rights. We need to take control. We need a British Bill of Human Rights, which is going to put British citizens first. It's as simple as that. Anybody entering Britain in a small boat illegally should be guilty of a crime, and the punishment will be they will be banned from entering the United Kingdom ever again, and they will be either deported to the country they came from or another third country. We should do deals like Donald Trump has done with other countries throughout the world who are prepared to take these illegal immigrants, and that's what we ought to be doing. We can't just sit back and see thousands coming in and sending 3 back. It's useless.
It is hopeless, absolutely useless, as you say. Front page of the Telegraph today has got Nigel Farage saying he will look at this Boris wave, as it's being called, 3.8 million people who came here after Brexit, when your party reduced the likely kind of qualifications, if you like, to come here. A lot of people came legally on visas to work and to study. Most of them seem to have stayed, but Nigel Farage says they're going to re-examine an awful lot of those cases to check whether actually they're contributing. And I think that should also be part of it, shouldn't it? You know, if you're going to contribute to the country, brilliant, come in and please do so. But if you're not, you know, don't bring loads of people with you who are going to become a drain on the state.
Yeah, well, the United Kingdom has taken a hell of a strain, Mike, when it started with Tony Blair, if you remember, when several other countries joined the European Union, and France and Germany had derogations about who could come from the new countries to reside in France and Germany. Britain didn't. And funnily enough, over 1 million came to the United Kingdom. And that number has just increased under David Cameron and other prime ministers, including Boris Johnson, and it just carries on increasing. Now, I'm not saying, Mike, that some of those people who come to the United Kingdom haven't brought great skills with them, skills that we need, and therefore we ought to ensure that we don't lose those. But at the same time, there may be a ton of other people who just come, overstayed, and are not contributing anything to the British economy at all. Worse, some of them may be on benefits as well. And we just can't afford it. We just simply cannot afford it. So we do need to look again, review the sorts of people that are remaining in the United Kingdom on maybe expired visas. And let's just see what is going to be to the benefit of the United Kingdom. And I think it is quite right as well that they ought to be providing a service to the United Kingdom if they wish to stay here. They weren't born here. And the one thing that Kemi Badenoch is saying is that we are not the world's hotel. We are not. And we've just got to look to see what is going to be in the best interests of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, and she's been saying that for a while now. But what did you make of the stuff at the weekend of people suggesting that she's not really making as much cut-through as leader of the Tory party as she needs to? Obviously, party season is ongoing. Tory party's not yet happened, but Tory party conference rather. What do you make of how that's all going to play out?
Well, as we know, Kemi in November will have been 1 year as leader of the Conservative Party. We've had a number of local authority by-elections, and of course we had the May elections, which we did incredibly badly in, and we continue to do badly. And I think part of the problem is that the review that's been going on within the Conservative Party as to what policies we're going to announce is still ongoing. Now, I think, Mike, that Kemi's got one chance at this, and that's going to be at the party conference. And unless she announces that we're going to leave the European Convention of Human Rights and a number of other policies, which are, as you said right at the top of your interview with me, Conservative policies. The reason why I joined the Tory party when I was 17, I've been a member of the Tory party for 50 years. And I've got to say, you know, my loyalty is being tested, as is the loyalty of many Conservatives who look at the party and think, we want to hear some Conservative policies that seem to be weakened during the period of Theresa May. Thank goodness we got Brexit done under Boris, but it really hasn't got any better than that. I mean, as I say, Rishi threw in the towel when he was Prime Minister, when he could have continued for another 6 months and used emergency legislation to get the legislation on the statute book that was going to allow him to send all these immigrants home. But instead of which, he decided to throw in the towel and allow in somebody who's doing a worse job than even he did. I mean, it does defy gravity, doesn't it? I mean, I am looking forward to the Labour Party conference because there's a number of them there who are now clearly looking to see how they can get rid of Keir Starmer. Yeah. And we've got a number of names there. Andy Burnham, I know he's not an MP yet, but he is seen as the king of the North, and he's going to come forward with some speeches at the Labour Party conference, which is clearly going to rattle Keir Starmer. But the fact is, Starmer is not cutting the mustard. And, you know, the policies for growth, I mean, the policy on Gatwick, I've got to say, is the right policy. The policy on Heathrow is the right policy. But those are the only two. Everything else has been anti-growth. And as you see, we've got unemployment figures later today, which is going to probably show another increase in unemployment. We've seen 13,000 millionaires flee the United Kingdom for Dubai and Italy and Monaco and other countries. And these are the wealth creators that should be here creating the new jobs that we want. He had 48 hours of respite with Donald Trump. But the fact is that we are back to the usual politics, and that's not going to save Keir Starmer. He said that he was the change. Well, he's not been the change, and if he was, it's the change for the worse. And I'm afraid we've got 3 more years of this. And if I think there must be a lot of Labour MPs who got elected in July 24, looking at their seats. You know, you've got a by-election in Wales coming up, Mike, in the super safe Labour seat of Caerphilly. It's been Labour since 1918 when the seat was created. In the Welsh Assembly, it's been Labour ever since the Welsh Assembly was created in 1999. And at the moment, the Labour Party are running third behind Reform and Plaid Cymru. If Labour loses Caerphilly, that is the biggest alarm bell that should be sounding throughout the whole of the Labour Party. Quite frankly, right. It would be a disaster for them.
I think it will be, and I think that's exactly the way it's going to go. And I suppose if you think of Andy Burnham as a king of the North, you could call Keir Starmer the king of North London, if you like. You know, see how that goes. Good to talk to you, Nigel. Thanks very much indeed. Nigel Evans, former Commons Deputy Speaker, warning that Labour is about to have an absolute and utter catastrophe in Wales, not just because of the Caerphilly seat that's going to go probably to Reform, but also the entire Welsh government, the Welsh Senedd, is likely to go to Reform as well, and that'll be later on next year in May. Let's get a voice note from Ben on Fergie taking money from a paedophile.
Morning, Mike. Ben from Birmingham. Great show as always. Is the irony lost on the royals that Fergie borrowed money off a paedophile to pursue her career as a child's author. They're just from another planet, and Charles is not liking the way he's behaving.
It's very weird, isn't it? I thought Charles did okay with the Trump visit, though, didn't he? Or do you disagree with that? 0344 499 1000. Terry in Birmingham says, Mike, the Palestine decision is an attempt to deflect attention away from the immigration crisis. When in trouble, change the subject. Don't let it happen. Well, we haven't let it happen. We haven't changed the subject. We're still talking immigration here. Ian from Lancashire says, Starmer does not speak for me. This government does not represent the majority of this country. It certainly doesn't. One from Steve, who says, if Palestine is recognised by the UK and other NATO states as a legitimate state, does that mean they are now eligible to be tried for war crimes? Very possibly so. And Daniel in Basingstoke says, I'm sickened by Starmer's announcement. I'm surprised he didn't wait until October the 7th to announce it. That would have been more his style. Yeah, I mean, there's some real problems going on in Downing Street, and they're not going away. It's as simple as that. One of them, of course, is the trouble with shutting down an awful lot of private schools. Many of them have gone out of business as a result of the VAT that Bridget Phillipson put on them, so they now have to leave sometimes the premises that they're in, and sometimes shut down the school so that all the kids have to go to a state school, which makes things even worse. Rudolph Elliott Lockhart's going to join us, Chief Executive Officer of the Independent Schools Association. Coming next.
The Muslim leaders in this country, those who are spreading and proselytizing the Muslim faith, believe they don't really need terrorism anymore to get their message across. They are doing it through the ballot box and the womb.
Exactly.
And that is an expression that was accepted by a leading member of the Muslim member of the House of Lords. And this is the problem we face. Yeah. While we sit there like frogs in a saucepan, the water's boiling. In fact, I think we're already hard-boiled.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 9:27. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. Julie Hartley-Brewer here, of course. Jihadi Paul's cushy jail life of kickabouts. We'll talk about that coming up in a little while. First up, though, let's get a voice note from Sammy.
Hi, Mike. Sammy here, all the way from New Zealand. There's a lot of irony in Keir Starmer choosing to make the statement today about recognising Palestine because it is the Jewish New Year, otherwise known as Rosh Hashanah, and this is the day where he chooses to do something completely antithetical to Jews. Lovely. I feel so glad to be in that country.
And you would think, given that his wife is Jewish, and I remember him telling Donald Trump at the last week, did he not, when he was talking about how he understood Palestine and the situation in Israel because he has extended family, he says, in Israel. Those were his words, and that he knows exactly what it's like to live as a Jewish person in Israel. And then he does this on Rosh Hashanah, as you say, the Jewish New Year, decides to recognise Palestine and gives a victory to Hamas. Brilliant. What a complete and utter plonker. Rodney, let's talk to Rudolph Elliott Lockhart now, Chief Executive Officer of the Independent Schools Association, because it looks as though Bridget Phillipson hasn't finished with independent schools, you know, not content with putting VAT on them so that an awful lot of people couldn't afford to send their kids there anymore, closing down an awful lot of the schools. She's now decided that she's going to charge them up to 3 times more for Ofsted inspections because they can afford to pay. Let's find out what it's all about. Rudolph, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. It's great to be with you.
Good to see you. You might think that she had some kind of, wish to sort of silently kill off private schools, like as if she's ideologically against them.
Well, it's difficult to know what's really going on inside anyone else's head, so I don't know what the motive that Bridget Phillipson has might be. I think what's important to see here, though, is we've got 2 different organisations that currently inspect independent schools in England. So you've got Ofsted, but there's also ISI, Independent Schools Inspectorate, and the majority of independent schools aren't inspected by Ofsted.
Right.
So for most independent schools, the cost of inspection is already being entirely covered by the school. And in my organisation, ISA, we've helped hundreds of schools to move away from being inspected by Ofsted. So we've already helped to significantly reduce the costs of inspections to the taxpayer. But the schools that we're talking about today, the independent schools that Ofsted inspects, they tend to be smaller schools and schools with lower fees. Ofsted also inspect nursery settings when their children are under 2, and they also inspect residential special educational needs schools. So I know that the government seems to be getting some policy headline that makes it sound like they're squeezing the big and the wealthy and the famous schools that people usually have in mind when they hear about independent schools. But the reality is that they're actually looking to increase the costs on nurseries, on special educational needs schools, and on lots of low-fee schools. So, yeah, it looks like the government's playing to the gallery here rather than dealing with the detailed reality of actual schools.
And, I mean, small amounts as well here, aren't they? It says here in a piece I'm reading, figures disclosed by ministers early this month reveal the annual cost of providing Ofsted inspections to private schools is about $6.5 million. And they're saying only £2.2 million of that is recovered in fees charged by the watchdog. So left-wing Labour MPs have urged ministers to end the subsidy in full. You're talking about, £4 million or thereabouts, which wouldn't keep them in, migrants for about 3 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And set that 4 million in shortfall against the tax revenues that come in from the independent sector, and you really see how minor the issue should be understood as. So independent schools support £5.1 billion every year in tax revenues to the UK exchequer. That's the equivalent of 115,000 full-time nurses. And they also save £4.4 billion every year in providing places for people who'd otherwise be in the state sector. So if you see those savings for the taxpayer there and the tax revenues coming in against what was it you were saying, £4 million of the lost cost here of the Ofsted inspections, it's very marginal.
Yeah.
And as I say, it's the cost of funding those nurseries, those special educational needs schools, and those low-fee schools. It's really not the stereotype that I think the government is trying to trade in.
No, exactly right. And of course, when the 20% VAT was put on schools, a lot of people said at the time they didn't need to start it when they did. They could have waited until, this actual academic year and done it in September instead of doing it back in January rather. But, you know, they said that they were going to get that money in from the VAT rise, and they were going to get 6,000 more teachers into the state system. As far as I know, they haven't hired any teachers into the state system, and instead what they've done is made sure that an awful lot of private school children have now gone into the state system, thereby putting more pressure on it in many parts of the country. So it's kind of backfired as a fundraising event, and also as an improvement to the state system.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, the money that's come in from VAT hasn't been ring-fenced to be spent on education. It's just gone straight into the general pool. Yeah. I would much rather be having conversations with the government about what we can do to help with the recruitment of more teachers. So there's all sorts of things that we might be able to do if the government wanted to work with us, where we might be able to get a consortium of independent schools together to cover training of new teachers, maybe use the apprenticeship levy there, and use that as an opportunity to get more teachers trained and then move into the state sector. That sort of approach will be much more collaborative and would have a much bigger impact on education nationally. But instead, we're dealing with what feels like headline grabbing stuff rather than sensible policy detail.
Yeah, well, you would think that Bridget Phillipson would have more to do with fixing the education system. She seems to spend most of her time talking about freeing up Palestine, and also somehow campaigning for her job as Deputy Prime Minister. She was up in Scotland yesterday, where she doesn't have any remit on education, campaigning. And it's like, excuse me, you're a Cabinet Minister. Shouldn't you be doing your job based where you're supposed to be?
Well, you know, politicians are always going to do what politicians do. What I would like...
Yeah, but the trouble is they're doing it with our money.
Well, yeah, no, I realise that. What I'd really like to have Bridget Phillipson do is recognise how diverse the sector is. The point is that if you are independent, it means that you don't have to do things in the same way as everyone else. So it means that independent schools are very varied. And I wish that meant that we could have a more nuanced approach to the sector to recognise that independence. Otherwise, the harm that might be done if this change comes in will be done to those small local lower fee schools and to special educational needs provision.
Yes, and that's already been a big problem for parents of special educational needs children, isn't it?
Absolutely. We saw this with the impact of VAT. It's hit those types of schools, those smaller schools, special educational needs schools, much harder than, you know, the big famous ones. And this is going to be potentially another element of that squeeze. It's not good policy. Maybe the government thinks it's a good headline for them, but it's not good policy. And I would really welcome working closely with them to make sure that we got something really sensible out of this that would genuinely benefit, you know, the entire country's education system.
Yeah, I think you're right. Rudolph, thanks very much indeed. Rudolph Elliott Lockhart, Chief Executive Officer at the Independent Schools Association. The problem is, of course, that Bridget Phillipson does have an ideological bent against private schools. There's no question about that. John from Carmarthen says, hasn't Bridget Phillipson got an office or somewhere more official looking to make stupid TikToks? Looks totally unprofessional with zero credibility. What a muppet. Well, that's the statement she made about recognising Palestine. Kevin in Southampton says, Mike, what a weasel Starmer is. He is running the country by ideology of Labour and not for the good of the country. It's a disgrace. Country before party, remember? Yeah, we do remember. And Sheila says, Mike, this recognition of Palestine shows that not only does Starmer put party in power before country, but party in power before family. What a despicable man, says Sheila in Norfolk. Well, don't forget, this is the same guy who, when he was asked about it during one of the pre-election debates last year, said if his family needed to go to private health care because there was something that they needed fixing, would he do it? He said no. He said he wouldn't put his kids or his family into private health care because he loves the NHS so much, even though he'd have to wait 48 hours in A&E, which might risk their life. The man is unlike any human I've ever known. 0344 499 1000. Let's get one from Marius on recognising Palestine.
Morning, Mike. Yeah, I don't know what to say, but I don't think Keir Starmer, we can call him a leader. He's actually just a follower of Macron, follower of the EU, follower of Canada. It's just in Australia, he's not a leader.
He really isn't. I wish he wasn't one either, because he certainly isn't actually capable of being one, but he technically is the leader of the United Kingdom, isn't he? That's the trouble. Mike says, Roy from Gloucester, Starmer recognising Palestine as a state is an absolute disgrace. Most people in the UK, apart from a few loons, don't agree or don't care. Most people would rather know what's happening about the massive pothole at the end of their road. I know. That's what most of them would care about. 0344 499 1000. Lisa Minnow from The Sun coming up. She's a travel editor. We'll find out from her just how damaging that cyber attack was at Heathrow at the weekend and why we're going to build a second runway at Gatwick.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 9:40, with you, of course, till 10 o'clock. 20 more minutes, and then Julie Hartley-Brewer will be here. Simon in Wiltshire says, Mike, great show as usual. Is it a coincidence that all the latest countries to recognise Palestine are governed by woke governments with huge Islamic influence? Just saying. Yeah, I know, isn't that strange? And how about this from Dale, who says, Mike, with Keir Starmer's accepting Palestine, wouldn't you think that's a kick in the teeth to his wife and his wife's family? He has no morals for anybody. I think that's the problem. David's in Gloucester, wants to talk about Starmer. David, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael.
Good to hear from you, sir. What do you want to say?
Well, I just thought, if Starmer's so keen on recognising Palestine, and he also enjoys a nice little trip out, maybe he needs to get on a plane and go and do a trip out there. And then with any luck, they might hang on to him. You never know.
Well, the trouble is he'd have to take a plane into Israel, wouldn't he? And they'd probably detain him and kick him out. I shouldn't think they'd let him enter the country, would they, at this point?
Well, it's a new country, so they can't stop him going there, can they?
Well, they haven't got an airport in Palestine, though.
Well, you know exactly where he's going, because he's told everybody he knows exactly where it is.
Well, that's the trouble, you know. He's recognised a state without an airport.
Yeah.
It's quite unusual, really, that, isn't it? It can't be going that well. Good for you. Thank you, David in Gloucestershire. Morning, Mike. If Starmer wants to officially recognise a Palestinian state and effectively reward Hamas for their atrocities, I wonder what the conversation he has with his wife across the breakfast table must be like. I believe she has a Jewish background. Well, he claimed when Donald Trump was here that he has extended family. His words, in Israel. So he knows exactly what it's like for the Israelis to be putting up with this ghastly pariah situation where they're getting missiles fired at them every 5 minutes. If they're not coming in from Palestine, they're coming in from the Houthis, or they're coming in from Lebanon. You know, they're coming in from all over the place. And so Israel, as the only democratic country in the region, needs to defend itself. And that's exactly what they plan to do. Talking of Trump's visit, who can forget, of course, that Keir Starmer was at Chequers all last week, or at least for a part of it, and he did a rather bizarre video over the weekend thanking all the police who helped him while he was all there. Have a look.
Chequers TFC to all units. I'm passing you now over to the Prime Minister for a short message.
Hello, thank you so much for all your hard work and professionalism and dedication.
To make this event a complete success. It's never been done before in the history of the United Kingdom.
And you have absolutely played a blinder.
To pull off something of this scale,
this importance seamlessly, is something you should be hugely proud of.
Thank you for your support, Prime Minister.
From the Gold Command to the Prime Minister, thank you very much for your message on behalf of everybody.
Thank you.
It's just too bizarre for words, isn't it? And why is he wearing a black T-shirt? I don't know. Has he just been for a run or something? He decided that spontaneously, I think I'll just get on the walkie-talkie and say thanks to all the police, or did they set it up as a proper, you know, like media event so somebody could film it and then he could actually take care as to what he looked like? Because obviously it's quite important to give out the right image. So he decided to wear a black T-shirt for some reason. Is it some kind of secret message? I don't know. One of the other big events over the weekend, of course, was the funeral and memorial service for Charlie Kirk. Erica Kirk, his widow, made the most extraordinary speech, really heartfelt, really quite emotional, in front of tens of thousands. I think it was 68,000 to 70-odd thousand people in a football stadium in Arizona. Have a look at this.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Quite an extraordinary statement, that. And then, of course, Donald Trump, who was also in attendance, came on afterwards and said this.
He was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great, great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. Charlie's angry. Look at that. He's angry at me now.
Donald Trump there speaking, trying to lighten the load, I suspect, because it was obviously a very emotional occasion. Andy in Cornwall says Labour recognising Palestine is about as useful as the EU recognising the Cornish and Cornwall as a protected race and place. Sweet FA has happened bar being run by the same pracks in Parliament. Mark says, in Long Eaton, Chagos gone, Falklands, Gibraltar next, Scotland crossing their fingers, greatest MP ever. Yeah, I know, it's not going well, is it? And Sam from Cheshire asked a question that a lot of people have been asking me this morning. Does anyone know how many were on the flight from France on Saturday? It's not that clear. We maybe have to find out from the Home Office exactly how many, because, of course, they don't want to tell us. They don't want to actually give away the game. That what's happening now is that we've sent 3 back and maybe about 10 or 15 or 20 have come the other way. What we don't know is when that flight landed. What we don't know is who was on it. And what we don't know is where they've gone. But these would be people who were pre-selected, pre-approved, as you like, for asylum claiming in Britain. So we'll be on that case. We'll be chasing that one down to see what we can tell you. But rest assured, we will tell you. Debbie says this, Andy Burnham is worse than Sadiq Khan. He put up cameras in all the little towns around Manchester to capture money from car drivers. Luckily, the cameras were never switched on. An absolutely utter waste of money. Well, this is the thing. Plenty of people I speak to up in Manchester say, actually, Andy Burnham isn't the answer. Traffic was awful at the weekend, and similarly, as I said, they had a 3-day bus strike. How long before a part of London, possibly Oxford Street, becomes known as Little Gaza, says Mark in Selby. I give it under a year once it is pedestrianised. A sea of tents, alfresco toilets, shops closing down. Oh dear. Well, I mean, it'll be like a lot of those towns in the sort of 90s and the early part of the century, when lots of places started getting called after Nelson Mandela. Mandela Corner and Mandela Town, Mandela Street, Mandela Avenue, Mandela Square, Mandela Place. There's one in Glasgow, for heaven's sake. It's 9:47.
The Muslim leaders in this country, those who are spreading and proselytizing the Muslim faith, believe they don't really need terrorism anymore to get their message across. They are doing it through the ballot box and the womb.
Exactly.
And that is an expression that was accepted by a leading Muslim member of the House of Lords. And this is the problem we face. While we sit there like frogs in a saucepan, the water's boiling. In fact, I think we're already hard-boiled.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. 10 minutes to 10. Julie Hartley-Brewer will be here very shortly to tell us what's coming up on her show. Morning, Mike. David Lammy tells Trevor Phillips not to confuse the Palestinian people with Hamas. That's a bit difficult to do, as they voted them in. Well, that's true, says Darryl in Blackburn. Mark in Sussex says, it's like October the 7th never happened. Congratulations on your guest this morning regarding Gaza. So knowledgeable and eloquent, really unpicked this government's apathy. They said everything I want to say in spades. Well, this is the trouble. The problem is that people do not understand that if Keir Starmer wants to reward a terrorist organisation, what you do is you reward them by recognising a state which doesn't exist because of all the violence that took place on October the 7th. They now think that they are enjoying the fruits of October the 7th. This from Paul in Fife. Morning, Mike. There are 2 million people living in Gaza. Not a single one of them have told us where the hostages are. Are we to believe they don't know? The reality is the mass majority of Gazans are Hamas members or supporters. They are not fighting to overthrow Hamas. They lined the streets and cheered when the hostages were paraded, beaten and bloodied. This government recognising Palestine as a state is a betrayal of those hostages. I think it's hard to see it any other way, really. I can't see it any other way. Let's talk to Sam, who's in Wrexham. Hello, Sam.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very well indeed.
Good.
What can I do for you?
Well, I'm that disappointed and really brassed off with this continual government who undermined us and the working people of this country, where we put everything into the effort of working and looking after ourselves and support people with nothing at all. It's totally and utterly mindless, clueless, and that goes for successive governments. And to be honest, the whole of Europe was brought down by Merkel, Blair, and whoever the French one was at the time. Like, it is a total shambles what we've done to Europe, I'm afraid.
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. And Angela Merkel, of course, was the one that started the whole immigration problem, wasn't it? When she said, if you're from Syria, you're welcome to come to the European continent. Of course, everybody said they were from Syria, even if they weren't from Syria.
Yeah, exactly, and they've got nothing to offer this country than to drain it. They may as well just pull the plug out and let the money drain out the country.
Yeah, well, that's
it is
more or less what they're
shambles.
Doing. It is a shambles, Sam. A lot of people agree with you. Thank you very much indeed. This from Stuart. It says, morning, Mike. Watching you on YouTube from a lovely and sunny Morocco again. There's no doubt about it that Starmer and Labour have recognised the Palestinian state along with disliking the British people and anything British in order to appeal to the Muslims living in and arriving daily into our once great country. Absolutely right. And Andrew in Chelmsford, when I hear Starmer talk, it sounds to me that not only is he trying to gaslight the masses, he's also trying to gaslight himself. The man does not have an authentic bone in his body. That is the problem. Let's have a listen to Melanie Phillips, Times columnist. She spoke to us a little bit earlier on today on her thoughts regarding Starmer recognising Palestine.
The whole thing is completely nonsensical. This state doesn't exist. Just because a number of countries, including apparently the United Kingdom government, wants it to exist doesn't mean it becomes in existence. Certain conditions have to be met in terms of international law. They have not been met. Anybody with half a brain can see this thing doesn't exist. And the hapless Lammy, to whom you've just referred, on that very interview with Trevor Phillips, made a complete idiot of himself because he actually admitted that just recognising a state of Palestine, he said, of course it doesn't bring it into existence. Well, if it's not in existence, then what are they recognising?
Well, there's no logic, is there?
No, they're recognising an idea, they're recognising a wish. I mean, the whole thing is would be farcical, would be comical, were it not so serious. It is, as your viewers have just said, a reward for terrorism.
Yes.
Hamas has actually said, thank you. It has said, this is the fruits of October 7. Can you believe this? That Britain's Labour government under Sir Keir Starmer has delivered to Hamas a reward for the most barbaric and biggest single atrocity against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. What an appalling disgrace for a British Prime Minister.
Yeah. And what I've been saying this morning as well, it doesn't appear to have been any kind of public conversation about it. There's been no debate in Parliament, as far as I'm aware. I haven't really even read a piece written by a cabinet minister in defence of this particular position. There's been no intellectual conversation about it whatsoever.
Well, no, I think we can all see broadly what's happened. You know, Sir Keir Starmer under enormous pressure from the Gaza first tendency, which is growing, unfortunately. I mean, as if Gaza has anything to do with the interests of the British people, of whom he is the Prime Minister. But anyway, there's an enormous pressure on him personally from his hard left, who would depose him in a heartbeat over this. There's enormous pressure from the rising Muslim bloc, the rising power of the Muslim bloc, both inside the Labour Party and in the country. So those two things have been great pressure on him that has been building for some time. And I think that what possibly has spooked him completely into this precipitate action was Emmanuel Macron, the French president, saying that he was going to do this. And I think that probably Sir Keir Starmer thought, well, I'm going to be left, you know, looking even more weak or I'm going to be in an even weaker position in terms of these people who want my head if I don't go along with this. Plus, I'm afraid to say, I think that Starmer himself, you know, he's obsessed by what he calls the two-state solution, which involves a state of Palestine being created. And he believes that Israel is dragging its feet over this. Well, of course, Israel's dragging its feet over this. There cannot be a state of Palestine because the only purpose of such a state, as the Palestinian leadership has said time and again, often in Arabic, but it is said time and again, the only purpose is a stage. It's part of what they call a strategy of stages to destroy Israel.
Ken says this, Starmer seems to set himself extremely low standards which he fails to live up to. Yeah, I think it's about right. I love your programme. My suggestion for stopping the boat, says Ellie in Warwickshire, would be to arrest and jail the man on the tiller on the grounds of illegal people trafficking. Surely we have the military capability to identify these individuals using drones. Well, you would think, wouldn't you? But anyway, listen, there's so much to talk about today. Julie Hartley-Brewer's here. Very good morning to you.
Very good morning. Yeah, happy Monday morning. I'm going to really struggle not to swear very badly on air today.
I can imagine. Because you've just come back from Israel, where you probably...
Well, obviously, I'm an Israeli shill. I mean, obviously, that's who you are.
Well, that's what it says on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. No, it's just extraordinary. I mean, it's not a reward for Hamas, except that Hamas said it is a reward for them and it's a victory for them.
Do you know what's the worst thing about it for me, though, is that I don't even think it's about doing it for the right reason. It's for doing it for the wrong reason.
Exactly.
Trying to keep his little, political career afloat.
Little lefty votes and the Muslim votes.
And also trying to get us to stop talking about how useless every other thing is.
And he's quite wrong, because it won't do any of that at all. They'll always want more. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. I mean, it's brought shame on our nation. It really has. Canada, Australia, France, exactly the same. But interesting conversation also about what is going back on at home. Nigel Farage pledging an end to indefinite leave to remain. Yes. Especially 3.8
million
who came here. That's including a lot of kids who came with people who came here. And the idea, like people say, they won't be allowed to have benefits or council housing. But if they were a net benefit to this country, which you keep telling us they are, then they wouldn't need those things.
Exactly.
So why is that an
And also
issue?
we now know that's not true, because so many of them are on benefits. So many of course they're on benefits because they're children or whatever it is,
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be talking about, obviously, the Charlie Kirk
that's incredible, isn't it?
memorial. I tell you what, Erica Kirk is a better woman than me. I'm telling you what, someone shot my husband dead, I would not be forgiving them.
Did you see what Trump said afterwards? He said, I don't like my enemies.
Yeah.
It shows you how brilliant he is at that kind of thing. But I think she might be a future political strength for America, because, what an amazing woman.
But here's the difference,